Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Rob Cesternino, and we are back once again for Outwit Outplay OutLIST, a show where we take a look at the most reductive and arbitrary things in the history of Survivor. And today, we will be taking a look at the greatest voting confessionals, the most memorable voting confessionals of all time, and putting them into a four-tiered list with a great panel, of course, back with me once again. That he is the man behind Outwit Outplay OutLIST. Please welcome back. Give it up for Mr. Mike Bloom.
So happy to be here, Rob. If you don't mind, I'd like to take care of just a bit of business up top here. Survivor Devil, I know you're my sugar daddy, but this is not going to be such a sweet ending.
What does it say? So Mike is holding up a parchment, so Survivor Devil, and what does it say underneath?
Mom. So this is a fun story. So this is an
Survivor Devil is your mom?
This is an actual parchment from the Survivor set. When I got to go visit Tribal Council when I was there preseason, I got to go up to the booth, up those flights of stairs that many contestants have once upon a time, and cast a vote on the parchment. And obviously the Survivor Devil is inextricably linked to my fate in Survivor, as is apparent in the RHAP has a podcast store. We can get many great merchandise based on the Survivor Devil. And the mom in parentheses is a call out to the great Sierra Easton. So I voted out my own mom in that perspective.
And no, you're not making any comparison to the person that you,
What am I, Shambo? No.
Yeah, okay.
Bloom, thanks for the shout out. Always appreciate it. Love you, bae.
Okay.
No,
well,
there's nothing to, I guess maybe is that when I vote out the Survivor Devil, he's a good game. Really appreciate the move.
You were voting for me for the winner just now, so I just won.
Oh, Mike, one vote for the Survivor Devil to win.
No. Wait, hold on. Wait. Oh, no. I forgot to tell you, my middle name is Topaz. Yes.
Okay. We are so blessed here today to be joined by the co-host of the RHAP B&B. You get to hear these two together every week during the Survivor season. Please welcome back the great Liana Boraas. Liana, how are you?
Doing fabulous. It is the holiday season, and this is the best gift anyone could ask for, to be here talking about something incredibly arbitrary and reductive, right up my alley, right up Mike Bloom's alley. And I think we can get into some real nonsense today.
Yeah, so fun. I'm really so excited when Mike said, I'm going to reach out to Liana. I said, oh, well, that would be a dream. If we could get Mike and Liana to do Outwit Outplay OutLIST with us, that would be super exciting. And now here we are. So very excited to dig into voting confessionals, perhaps the most serious subject that we've talked about so far on Outwit Outplay OutLIST. We've talked about hats. We've talked about sponsorships. We talked about the aesthetics of the immunity necklace. Yeah.
Also, I mean, that being said, what we're focusing on today, of course, are memorable words that are said within the Survivor voting booth. I mean, going on, I think, 3 years, Rob, you and I did a podcast about the best final words that contestants said after they were voted out. And this was sort of the nice spiritual sequel. It was a little bit of time in gestation, but we found the proper venue to do so. I mean, to your point, we're going to be talking through some things that, while it's maybe a more of a serious subject than the aesthetic of hats that Survivor players wear, I mean, there's going to be a lot of humor in this. Some of the most memorable voting confessionals in Survivor history are ones that are funny, that are shady, that are particularly insulting, and that make a big impact in the game. And I'm going to go so far as to say, I think this is going to be our hardest ranking yet. Because I admit, I take the word memorable very literally sometimes, and I throw in maybe some clunkers in there, a Marshalls for every Outback Steakhouse, if you will. But I do feel like all of these are gold in their own right. So really, we're just going to have to be like these jewelry endorsers and just look at like what grade diamond is slightly better than the other one.
This is the uncut gems of Outwit Outplay OutLIST.
This is how we win.
This is how we win. Okay. All right. Liana, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a little bit of a reprieve from doing sort of the intense podcasting, especially from I was going to say science, but from Survivor. And I just am mentally and also preparing my rankings for the massive endeavor that you are going to take on, Rob, in 2021, where you're going to be talking about ranking all the Survivor seasons. And I feel like this is the perfect way to really start getting back into that, getting the Survivor juices a-flowing, and really, sorry, I don't know, it's Mike's fault, and and talk about all of this. I love Survivor so much, and I think there are a lot of memorable moments, especially those in the voting confessionals. And I think Mike, I assume, has picked a fabulous list for us to talk about.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the season rankings poll. We haven't talked about it too much on the podcast yet, but if you missed it, you just listen to the podcast, aren't as active on social media, we have a brand new thing that we're putting together for 2021. We are going to rank all 40 seasons of Survivor, and we need your help. We have a poll up, a North poll for this time of the year at robhasawebsite.com/top 40 poll. We're asking you to go through and rank each season in the order you think it is good, from best, number 1, to worst, number 40. I have heard this is not easy to do on your mobile device. Sit down, have a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, look it over, go through it. We're asking you to put some thought into this. And then we are going to put everything together. You have until December 23rd to be able to tell us which seasons are on the nice list and which seasons are on the naughty list. And we are going to start in the first week of January. We're going to go week by week from 40 all the way to 1. Potentially, that takes us to the end of September. That seems like a time when maybe we might be seeing U.S. Survivor return. Think of it, maybe it's a little bit of like a countdown clock to when Survivor is going to come back, potentially. 40 weeks.
Ascending so slowly.
So slow.
In such a fun way. In such a fun way.
We're going to do a weekly podcast every week. I'm going to be with a panel every single week to go through the season from 40. And then at the end of the show, we'll tell you what season is coming up next. If you want to watch ahead, if you want to send in questions. And then we'll also do a weekly poll where we'll do a bunch of superlatives and talk about getting the fan rankings and the fan vote on a bunch of different things. Best episode, MVP, all these things, underrated players, and all that stuff. That's going to be starting off in 2021. But first, we need you to go to robhasawebsite.com/top 40 poll for that. Okay, that's what's coming up on into 2021. All right, so let's see. How do you want to kick off this discussion? Of course, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, robhasawebsite.com/iTunes, to make sure you don't miss anything.
Well, I guess to start it off, I would love to hear, because, with these podcasts, we sort of figure out the criteria as we go along here. I mean, I would love to hear from you all, in your opinion, what makes a good voting confessional? Is there something that they have in common that assumingly you are going to be trying to look for when you determine the best of the best today?
Mm-hmm. I think part of determining the criteria is a little tough when you haven't seen the whole list, although that does make it very exciting. But for me, the first thing that stands out is, can I remember this confessional? Is this something that I needed to hear the audio to jog my memory? Because I can already think of a few that I could probably name. And if that one's on the list for me, then that automatically makes it at least in the first or second tier. And so I think that memorability has to be part of it.
Yeah. And I think memorability is not just like after you watch the episode, but I think memorability is really what stands the test of time in terms of like that there are some of these confessionals that we'll talk about that you remember from many, many years ago. So things that have really stuck with us, whether it's because that they are so witty, so crazy, just so over the OTT.
Well, let me also ask, because we are afforded the opportunity to talk with a contestant who has done some voting confessionals in his time. I mean, Rob, when you're playing, is there talk about like what you'll say in the voting booth? Obviously, and we might get to it, there are times you can certainly make a show out of it, but is there any talk amongst players of, oh yeah, when I'm voting for this person, this is what I'm going to say? Or is that more of a Big Brother thing?
Perhaps it's a Big Brother thing because we see it more on the live feeds. I really don't remember a lot of talk about, hey, here's what I'm going to say when I go into the voting booth. I remember like having like internal conversations of like, oh, okay, let me say this, or let me think about what I should say, because I knew, as being a fan of the show, that was one of my favorite things of what will you say when you are voting against that person. And I kind of looked at it a little bit like, I used to watch Sports Center when like in the 90s, and they'd have like just like crazy things of like, somebody'd hit a home run and they would just yell out like different catchphrases and stuff like that. And I just thought that would be something that would be really fun to see people start to bring into Survivor.
Catchphrases?
Yeah, like somebody hits a home run. Yeah. And it's like, forget the mustard, it's karate time. That's out of here.
Well, I mean, to your point, we might be talking about the Queen herself in an installment here today, but I will say something that she did in Game Changers is sort of an example of that, right? Like Queen stays Queen, adios was really coined on a recurring basis in that season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, well, I guess maybe then that's also part of the criteria. Is this a catchphrase? Can we make a catchphrase out of the voting confessional?
So can you put it on a t-shirt?
Yeah, exactly. Can you get a Seeds baby out of it?
Right. Really, nobody should have ever let me be on television. That I was just like trying to think of like what's like crazy things that I could be doing. Like they shouldn't have let me be on the TV station at my college, let alone CBS.
I don't know, Rob. If you're not let onto television, none of us are here right now. So really, that is the ultimate sliding door into the voting booth.
The question is, are you doing something more productive?
Never.
No.
I'm sitting there counting my toes for the millionth time.
Yeah, but Liana might.
Yeah, but then I never would have met Puya. So,
That's true. That's true.
I might be more productive, but I certainly wouldn't be as happy.
You'd be a Nobel-winning, heartbroken person.
Yeah. The things that would have happened if Rob didn't survive New Orleans, wasn't on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Mike, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. We're going to go chronologically here. And spoiler alert, I don't know if this is representative or not, but of the 20 I pulled today, a lot of them are based in like the first 10 seasons, a good plurality of them. I wonder, and actually even before we get into it, has the voting confessional kind of gone away in a novel concept? Obviously, there are going to be some modern ones that we're going to talk about, but I do feel like when you think about really big voting confessionals, a lot of them are from like arguably the first 20 seasons of the show.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point, and I think it speaks to something that's going on with the show, where I think that because of the hidden immunity idol and of course all of the different twists and stuff, I do think that they edit more so that the person at home, as much as possible, is always surprised. And I don't know if that was necessarily the case in the earlier season. So I feel like that a lot of times that the vote tended to be more of like a binary choice of it is either A or B, and there was more that they could show you without necessarily like telling you like what maybe there's like a swing vote or something like that. But I think that they like having all of the votes up in the air, and maybe they're also pressed for time where they don't spend as much time showing the voting confessional. So I do think that there are reasons why we saw more of these in the early seasons than we saw in from like 20 and on.
Yeah, I think someone would have to go back and do the math, but they show less for sure in the more recent seasons. Because I mean, even the most memorable ones that I can think of from recently would probably be Wendell's. Is the only one I think that I could name. Whereas, I have at least 10 I think I could name from the first 10 seasons. So for sure, that definitely has to be the case.
Yeah. Not to give anything away, could you think of one from Winners at War? Because I can't. Yeah.
The Boston Rob voting for Tony is probably the biggest one. Either that or like was it Ben was like picking stuff up and looking for in the confessional. So yeah, it's become less about like maybe it's become more about the impact of the vote than maybe the votes that are being cast. That being said, I said this last time, I'll say it every time. This is a group of 20 that I picked out from hundreds, who knows, maybe thousands of voting confessionals. The ones you want might not be on here, but that's why we're going to hashtag save it for the sequel. So apologies if it's not part of these 20.
Is that the hashtag if people send us anything? Hashtag save it for the sequel?
It might just be like a blanket response, The new okay boomer.
Yeah. And then we'll just respond to every single one like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Good one. Good job.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Hashtag save for the sequel.
All right. Well, let's go all the way back to Survivor Borneo and a weird little dude by the name of Greg Buis. So this is
a weird little dude.
Little WLD by the name of Greg Buis. So this is Greg's vote for Jenna. It's going to be ultimately the last vote he ever casts in the episode that he was voted out. So We're going to give a listen here to our very first confessional, and then we'll talk it over. This is Greg voting for Jenna in Survivor Borneo.
Okay, here we go. Greg Boas.
First time for paranoia, second time for irritation, and third time because my ear infection is clearing up.
Okay.
My ear infection is clearing up and you're out of here.
Exactly. That's your catchphrase.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
So the ear infection was helping him deal with Jenna Lewis because his hearing was impacted. Is that what he's saying?
I think that's sort of like, it's a bit of, it's not even A to C. I think that's like A to F of really just working through the logic. But that's also Greg Buis in a nutshell.
Yeah, or a coconut shell.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's an allusion to the fact that I believe Greg did vote for Jenna 3 times. I think it was at the Joel Tribal Council, or maybe it was during the Ramona Tribal Council, at that cockamamie merge Tribal Council, then finally when he was voted out. And so he was giving his various reasonings as to why he was voting for her.
How was the volume on that clip for you two? Good?
Yeah, don't need an ear infection to know that was good volume.
Okay. Now, I was trying to guess what this was before we were going to play the clip. It is not a voting confessional that really stands out to me. Liana, do you know what clip was coming up?
No, as soon as Mike was like, all right, we're going to Borneo, I was like, all right, which one? And this is not from, what did you call him? The weird little dude?
Yeah, the weird little dude.
Yeah, weird little dude, Greg Buis. No. That's not what I expected. So, I mean, just for that, I mean, can I, in good faith, put this in one of the top tiers because I didn't remember it? Now, I do enjoy the extremely complicated logic of I have to vote you out a third time because my ear infection is clearing up, meaning I can hear you better, and therefore you are annoying, so I have to vote you out. However, in a, 20-second clip, I'm not sure that really translates for television. You got to be quick. You got to be snappy,
Yeah. Liana, was Greg Buis treated with antibiotics? Because I don't think an ear infection is going to clear up on its own.
I don't know. Maybe the worm crawls out of your ear, like Jenny Lanzetti.
I thought you were talking about like Star Trek 2.
No, that worm did not crawl out.
Because I feel like that maybe it's like water was in his ear. Maybe it wasn't an infection.
Yeah. Do we think it was really an infection?
So I actually believe that, in truth, I believe I read Mark Burnett's book and he said that Greg did indeed have an ear infection, though. I don't know. Maybe if he was knocking boots with Colleen in the jungle, it was a different type of infection.
That's not true, Mike.
It's all speculation.
All right. So I guess let's look at where this should go on the list. And so let's go ahead and take a look here. So here is our big board that we will be working at. Of course, that somehow we always have the bottom tier D, which we have to just remove. I don't know why that is.
That's like the hell. Like, you don't even deserve a Survivor quote. You're D.
D. Okay. All right. The tip top is worth playing for. Then we have a second tier, which is My Life is Fine. Then Ain't No Hershey Bar, and then Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye, which could make things very confusing today.
Of course, that's what I do. Want to do is cause confusion on this podcast.
Okay. So let's welcome in Greg. Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye is the bottom tier. I don't think that this is a bad confessional. I feel like it should not be in the Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye, which are reserved for the most ratchet.
Yeah. So again, like, it's kind of hard without knowing the full spectrum of what we're going to be looking at today. But for the fact that this is clever. He actually did have an ear infection. For some reason, that lens points to this confessional.
Like the truth in comedy is what bumps it for you.
Right, exactly. He took advantage of the situation that he was in. You have the 3-time callback. Yeah, maybe Ain't No Hershey Bar for me on this one.
Yeah, I'm good keeping it there for now. Like I said before, I think Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye, it might not be ratchet here because, again, this is going to be, to quote Jeff Probst, there's going to be a curve here, definitely. So there's a chance it might
around.
We by the end we do some sort of rejiggering and might
okay
around. So this is not set in stone anytime soon, much like Greg's ear infection.
Well, we can't treat us with antibiotics yet, so
yeah. Okay. All right, Mike. What's number 2 on your list?
Well, number 2 is with
your batting order.
Number 2 is with season number 3. We are going to Survivor Africa. So Kelly Goldsmith, interesting character for many reasons. And also, the result of probably one of the first big moves in Survivor history, arguably when Lex turns on her. Kelly knows that Lex is turning on her, and it leads to the quote from her boot episode when she is voting for Lex, and she does not mince words in true Kelly Goldsmith style.
Okay, here is a former Talking with T-Bird guest, Kelly Goldsmith. By the way, check out this latest edition of Talking with T-Bird, as Cindy Hall joins us for a second time to tell us about her epic story of going to California. It's a podcast unlike any other I think we've ever done, where we just let a guest tell a story for a good 90 minutes to 2 hours on the podcast. Check that out with Cindy Hall. But let's Kelly Goldsmith. Here she is in Survivor Africa.
When it's me, you'll know it. I couldn't be more excited to be casting this vote. I never wanted you to win, and now I hope you won't. If this is the last vote I cast, then at least I got a vote for you, who I've always found to be not fun to be around.
Okay. All right. So that was OTT from Kelly Goldsmith.
Yeah, I have this in my mind fondly because I remember being like pretty much the first Savage voting confessional, though he'll end up showing a few seasons down the line of like, everyone was like pretty okay to each other, pretty civil to each other in the voting booth, with the exception of like Greg's musings. This is really the first time that someone comes into the voting booth and is like, I hate you. I hate you doing this to me, and you're not going to win because of it.
And it's very to the point. You are not fun to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And not really mincing any words there.
And I believe the reference to, like, if it's me, you'll know, was not only a quote that she said to him when he was suspecting her of voting for him during the merge, but she also, like, drew something in the corner to be like, yes, this is my watermark, the Kelly Goldsmith watermark, to be like, yes, this was indeed coming from me.
This is the serial
What is the watermark?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to remind myself. I know it's just a little drawing that she put in there.
Like
Okay.
what? Like a dagger? Like you think it was a dagger? What do you think it was? Like a flower or something? What would the mark be?
It could have been a rat, because wasn't the whole thing was about like sniffing out the rat or something?
Mm-hmm.
The rat of death.
Yeah. Okay. So this is mean-spirited. I wouldn't say it's particularly witty, just very, very much blunt and to the point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think if there's the historical element to it that Mike is bringing up, right? That like, oh, if this is sort of the first super cutthroat, but even then, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe just because we put it in the history of all the other confessionals that we've had.
No, yeah, I think when you compare it to others, a lot of people throw weight behind their insulting confessionals more so than Kelly. It almost seems like maybe not a rap, but almost like mouse-like in the way that she just sort of says it straight out. I would say she brings more venom to her final tribal council space than she does in the last vote she casts here.
Yes, which I thought was sort of like derivative of Sue Hawk. I felt like that. Even like Brian Gumbel, I feel like, and Kelly Goldsmith gets the Sue Hawk Award tonight.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Rosie O'Donnell, didn't she like give the Sue Hawk Award away to Tammy? Like she actually coined the term for it.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and check the tape on who said it first, Rosie or Brian.
When we do Outwit Outplay OutLIST for reunions.
Yes.
Put it on the Twitch podcast.
So here we are, Kelly Goldsmith. We saw her Forget You Go Home Goodbye. Is this confessional ratchet?
I'm fine with leaving it in the Forget You Go Home.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
I don't know. I get there's so many other ones. If you're going to compare it on the axis of straightforward, harsh, and to the point, there are other confessionals that I think beat out this one.
So what I would say is that while I have no love for this confessional, I think Forget You Go Home Goodbye should be reserved for something that's an abomination.
Okay, gotcha.
This should, like, why did you say this? This is a terrible confessional. And I feel like
this one made sense. This is fitting. Yeah.
And I think this one is also like cathartic a bit as well. Like I think the audience at that point maybe was not the biggest fans of Lex, particularly in that episode. So I think that was one of our first like preaching to the choir. Yes, Queen Kelly. Thank you for saying it. To your point, Liana, I think given 20 years of Survivor history, we have seen stuff blow this way out of the water. But I would not say it's necessarily a bottom tier confessional at the moment.
I would just ask, okay, Greg versus Kelly, who should be ahead of which one?
I like the humor of Greg's more than I think the attempted bite of Kelly's. Plus, I think that Greg's is more short and to the point, whereas Kelly's is a bit longer.
I don't have a preference here.
Yeah, I'm fine with this order.
All right. Mike, let's go back to the well. What else do you got?
2020 was a year for Sean Rector. Obviously, he did a lot of great stuff with the Diversity Voices of Survivor podcast that you had been doing over the course of this year. But people might forget that the man was a Survivor player himself, and he had an extremely memorable vote when he, in one of the biggest moves in Survivor history, helped turn the tables on old Johnny Pots and Pans. Here is Sean voting out John from Survivor Marquesas.
A friend of the pod, Sean Rector. Here he is.
Checkmate, bruh. Thought you had me. So anytime you go to Vegas, bet on black. But we definitely gonna have chicken and waffles when this whole thing is done.
Yes.
So the smiles across everyone's faces are like,
it.
I think, sign that this is by far the best one we've experienced so far out of the three.
Yeah.
Checkmate. Checkmate, brah. Yes.
Checkmate, brah. And then is that the passenger 57 quote, Mike?
I'm trying to remember if you've ever been in Vegas, always bet on black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's always bet on black. Passenger 57. Yeah. I think Wesley Snipes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one. Okay, so there's sort of, I think, of three different elements of this. So there's the intro, which is fabulous. There's the iconic quote, the reference, fabulous, and then you know what? A little bit of reconciliation.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
if you will. Yeah,
like
See you
we'll
on the
go to
flip side.
Roscoe's.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get some chicken and waffles. We'll be good. I love that. I love it. It is a masterpiece, I think.
Turducken of a voting confessional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it's got all the different pieces that you want.
Yeah, and I guess the fried chicken's a part of that. I think what also helps it is the actual poignancy of it as well, because you know Sean was the target of the Road to 4 up to this point, and so this is Sean being able to say, I mean, to your point, checkmate, bro, is very meaningful in that, like he said, no, I'm turning the tables onto you. I'm the one who made the move. Now you're out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very Queen's Gambit.
V's Gambit.
Okay. So let's take a look at our big board here, and let's see where Sean Rector is going to land on this list from Survivor Marquesa. All right. So let's take a look, and this is not Ratchet, right?
Far from it.
Far from it. Okay. All right.
This
Would you
is
say
not the mint
so far?
Alpanelia's tongue.
Yes.
This for me is My Life is Fine at least.
At least. I agree. I think, yeah, it's tough. I'm inclined not to put it in worth playing for yet until we figure out like what really makes because I feel worse if we put it in worth playing for and then moved it down. Then My Life is Fine and we move it up. You know?
Better to be promoted than demoted.
Exactly.
All right.
Hey, bruv.
All right. But right now, Sean Rector is at the top of the heap here with his confessional, voting out John Carroll. All right. Mike, the next item up for bids. What do you got?
Let's go to, I don't know if you all know, but there was a merge episode in Survivor the Amazon where somebody said something when voting out Roger Sexton that was pretty legendary in its own right. I don't think anyone is aware of it. It's pretty much a hidden gem of its own that I was able to find. So let's unearth this masterpiece and give a listen to this complete stranger talk about him.
Okay. All right. Here is some idiot from Survivor the Amazon.
Here comes tonight's long distance dedication. It goes out to Rob from New York. He writes, Dear Casey, there's a mean old man in my life that's about to leave. Could you please play something appropriate for me? Well, Rob, here's your request. Na 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 na, na 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 na. Hey, 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 goodbye.
Can't believe they would put someone like that on TV. What were they thinking?
Yeah. Has anybody ever done a confessional in an impression of somebody that's not even on the season of like I guess Johnny Fair played this like some wrestling voices in
it's
confessional.
very groundbreaking in that way. It's like
if
someone come in and did like a Red Fox impression.
Yeah, what a moron that really was thinking of these things. Like what a like twisted like
I mean, to your point, Rob, we're vocalizing what Jenna what Jeff Probst told this person apparently when they went to go sit back down.
Yeah,
about
if anybody hasn't ever heard the story, so like in Survivor the Amazon, the voting booth was very close to where we there were the benches and there was the fire, and then there was like this sort of like this doorway, and then you just walk through it. It wasn't a long hike to the voting booth, and so I'm trying to do this thing. And then I walk out, and I guess I'm like all proud of myself. And Jeff Probst looks at me and says, "Just so you know, that will never, ever make it onto the show. Okay, you know that, right?" I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah, and then I'm assuming the editors, a la Heidi, said, when I knew this, I knew instantly it was going to make the show.
Yeah. Apparently, I think Roger also heard that. I think it was very loud.
Well, it's tough though. I think you would tempt a little sotto voce, right? You could hear it in the beginning, but like it's really tough to
Didn't want to lose the performance. Yeah.
Right.
So stupid. So stupid.
I love it.
Well, I love it, especially like I wonder how this plays in 2020. Like, what kids are turning to their parents watching this and being like,
actually doesn't play in 2020 often because I think if they have to pay for the rights to that song.
They cut. So at least I don't know if they cut. Sam actually might know the answer to this one. If they cut the whole thing or if they just cut the music part of that. Because exactly. They don't want to pay for the music rights.
I don't know. I feel like nowadays, if you'd have to do like a 2020 version, you'd be like, "This is Bobby Bones from iHeartRadio taking in a long distance request."
That's the updated, the modern version of this.
Yeah. Oh, I got a tweet.
Yeah, right. No, it's like a podcast or maybe, I guess, Sirius Radio is not really.
Yeah. This vote is sponsored to you by Nature Box, the thing you should eat when you get the hell out of here.
So while they're at it, there's a few more things they could cut from Survivor the Amazon if they want. If you're in there already, go for it.
Survivor the Amazon, I think, is one of the only seasons where they should like allow an age rating. Like, oh, you can only be this old to watch Survivor the Amazon.
Yeah. So, all right, this is going to be hard for me to. I'm like, I feel like
you can abstain.
Yeah, I think I would abstain, and I also feel like that. Do you want me to leave the room? Also, like, I feel like that this is like awkward. Of like that, I don't have any sort of like ego about this. Of like, if you guys don't put my confessional number one,
you are cutting the power.
Yeah. Everybody's fired. That's it. So
you'll make me wish that I never got found on TV.
Yeah. So I will just you tell me where it goes.
I mean, this is on top.
This is top tier.
This is top tier. Look, we will say what Rob physically is unable to is this is eviscerating, it is creative, it is musically influenced, and it is completely novel for the early era that it was in. Mm-hmm. This is through 20 years of Survivor, still one of the most remarkable voting confessionals of all time. And the fact that future executive producer Jeff Probst read you to filth for it upon sitting down and it still got put in is just icing on that cake, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the fact that they're not willing to pay extra to make sure that it gets played. So now Jeff Probst got his wish. There's something also beautiful about that.
Yeah, it came true.
Exactly.
Well, like here's what you do. Instead, take out any instance of copyrighted music in Survivor and just put in the Winners at War song.
Yeah.
What, just like play over it?
Roger, I've got a special dedication for you. It goes out from a kid from Long Island who says, "Winners at war. What is it for?"
Or just
Winners at war.
T-Bird being like, "I'm going to do a performance. You better get ready."
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Like they have in-house music. Might as well use it.
Mm-hmm.
They paid for it. Damn it, they're gonna use it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is for me, this isn't a debate. This is definitely top tier. I mean, even before I was familiar with RHAP, like I knew this confessional. I had this confessional, always in my brain. So I think that just goes to show its longevity, its staying power, and it's top tier for me.
Plus, the impression that results out of this becomes a formative part of one of your weekly Survivor podcasts, Rob. That is right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Somehow it still is following us to this day.
Like a ghost.
Like a ghost. So there you go. It also happened to be in a vote where it was such a jailbreak vote where everybody is voting for Roger except for Butch and maybe Dave. And it's just they were having so much fun at Roger's expense in this episode. I think it really fit the tone of what they were trying to do.
Yeah, it was one of those rare episodes. I mean, to your point, I think a lot of Modern Survivor just shrouds a lot of mystery as like what's going to happen. This is one of the rare Survivor episodes where it's like, we know what's going to happen. Let's see how we get to this outcome. And to that point, they're dunking the entire episode on Roger, and yours was just the final, alley-oop that breaks the glass in the board and rains down upon everyone.
Boom shakalaka. Yes.
Sports guy Mike coming in with that classic analogy.
Watched a lot of Space Jam growing up. All right, so I may have jumped a bit forward in time. I may have wiggled a bit forward in time and got a bit trigger happy with playing the Casey Kasem one, because we actually do have to go back one season. But you know what? I had to put one Rob before the other, because we are going to another Rob here. Rob Zabachnik, Rob with 2 B's, guys, 2 B's. Rob and Sheehan did not get along. That is an understatement in Survivor Thailand. And when Rob voted for Sheehan one time, he made sure to let her know that.
Okay, here is Rob Zabachnik.
Sorry, girl. You get on my nerves and I don't like being around you. Nothing personal.
Okay. Mike, what was it about that confessional that really stood out to you?
It's incredible. It's a Michael Scott line. It's you annoy me and you get on my nerves. Nothing personal, though. Those are 2 very personal statements, and he follows up with nothing personal.
Okay. So you like the line of dialogue.
The line of dialogue is incredibly written. Rob Zabachnik is an unintentional comedy script genius in what he was able to craft there.
Do you think it would have been funnier if you had flipped it though? Nothing personal, but does that play better, or is it better the opposite?
Nothing personal works better as a punchline. Personally, I don't know if we need to punch up that joke.
Okay. Just trying to see if we can send it to the writers' room, see where that goes.
Yeah, I think you'd probably want the laugh line at the end, which is the nothing personal tag.
I love that he says it with a straight face as well, of like, God, you're annoying. Nothing personal though. It's just a game. Bye.
Yeah. Boy, Rob Zabachnik and Sheehan, 2 of my faves to getting together for one voting confessional.
And I believe that was 2 other guests on Talking with T-Bird.
Yeah, so far a lot of Talking with T-Bird. Only Greg Lewis not mentioned so far on Talking with T-Bird.
For many, find that WLD. I think that's the true white whale of Talking with T-Bird.
He's on the list. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at the big board for Mr. Rob Zabachnik. All right.
The thing about this one is that it's practical. I feel like I could use this in my daily life. Like I could say something very insulting and then be like, but nothing personal. It's not personal.
Okay, it's not ratchet.
No, I said before, this does feel like something out of like The Office, like an ironic thing that a character says. So it does have sort of applicability in that regard.
Okay. So how far is it going? Is it going past Kelly Goldsmith?
Because of the irony of it, perhaps. Like, does the ending line, like if it didn't have the nothing personal at the end, then I think it's worse. But I think with the nothing personal element added onto it,
I think with the nothing personal element, it's not on this list. So yeah,
I got the point. Yeah.
No, I agree, and I think maybe like Greg's, it's like I let the ones that are short and succinct. I think maybe reverberate on you more than something like Kelly's, or even like Sean's, for instance, right? We don't remember the entire thing. We usually remember checkmate, bro, always bet on black. So it's almost like brevity is wit with some of these things. Even though Rob proves he doesn't have much wit in what he says in this confessional.
So I kind of feel like that Kelly Goldsmith benefits somewhat from, she's going to get voted out. Like it's kind of a big vote where she gets voted out here. It's a big moment in that season with sort of like the inciting incident for the second half of the season of who voted for Lex. And this is a big part of it. So I just feel like that the circumstances of the Rob versus Sheehan battle, I feel like that it's the lowest stakes out of anything we're talking about here.
Right, because I believe this is also during the Stephanie vote where he just wasn't in on the vote, but neither one of them were going. Exactly.
Sorry, I hope Akiva's mouth isn't watering right now.
Is it other like pickle adjacent items as well?
Exactly.
Do we know?
I don't know.
If I say like this is my bread and butter, is he just like foaming at the mouth?
I think that we have to put that. I think that's a great point. Is to put it within the context of the episode, right? Because if that's what's going to benefit Rob's confessional, for example, then there need to be some stakes, right? And if so, this is just Rob sort of throwing a vote. I mean, what is that? What is that?
Okay.
All right. I'm fine keeping it here for now. Let's make that skateboard stop. I can't believe he brought a skateboard on the beach. This is still ridiculous to talk about many, many years later.
Yeah.
Very useful. That's what you should do as another podcast. You should do
luxury items.
Yeah, luxury items.
Actually, that's a fantastic idea. I think well, and that's another thing that has gone away in recent times. So
yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready whenever you want it.
Yeah, I think Rob's got another top tier spot in mind right now.
Okay.
All right. Well, now we're getting the time stream is back in motion. And look, I said brevity is wit, and nowhere is there more brevity than Johnny Fairplay's infamous vote for Sean Cohen during Survivor Pearl Islands.
Okay, Jebediah Kovad vote. Here we go.
You.
Top tier. It's gotta be top tier. Oh, it's just good in so many ways. First, I mean, Survivor, as much as we talk about the age rating, Survivor is a show that I think very rarely allows explicit language on the show. And they also, even when they have people swear, they usually just blur their mouths and do the da-da-dum. But they actually, Johnny Fairplay gets a bleep here. We play what the bleep in the middle of a Survivor episode.
Yeah. What word do you think he said?
Ooh.
He didn't say fudge.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh man. Well, if we're talking about harsh confessionals, Kelly walked so Fairplay could run, right? So
you could skateboard on Rob's back.
On the beach.
It's just the two words.
You.
Yeah. He gives the finger too, right?
I believe that he does. And well, I remember he flips others off at a certain circumstance, but I think he also writes FU on the vote as well, so that even though Sean was not around to hear this, he certainly sees it when the vote comes up.
In case it's unclear.
And there's some historical stuff in here as well, because this is a vote where probably the closest Fairplay ever got to going home before he was voted out, right? Because Drake had to go to one more tribal council, and it essentially was John versus Sean, who between Krista, Rupert, and Sandra, who were they going to convince to vote out?
They have a little bit of their own final tribal council on the beach of all right, tell us why it shouldn't be you, okay? And then they were going to make their decision based on what was going to be said at that meeting. House meeting. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great job there by Johnny Fairplay. All right. Forget You Go Home Goodbye. It's not Ratchet. All right. Where do you want to say? Is it up by Sean Rector?
I mean, I think it's worth playing for personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right.
It's memorable. It's iconic.
It's also
I will refrain from the conversation of where it should be in the top tier.
It's also quintessential Fairplay, right? It's smarmy and very adult, and also very cartoonish villainy.
It's no will work for food, but you know what?
Yeah. I think Fairplay has redeemed himself immediately for that atrocious hat with this voting confessional.
It was we'll lie for food.
We'll lie for food.
Did you say we'll vote for food?
I don't know.
Oh, that's it. If I'm ever playing Survivor, that's what I'm wearing.
We'll write that up.
Vote for food.
Yeah. All right.
Oh man. All right. So Liana, what do you think here?
Ooh, you mean in the debate between the two?
Yeah, between Rob versus John. Another Rob versus John.
Rob versus John's, yeah.
Rob versus, Oof. I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I don't think yes, it is great in its simplicity, but I think that it then can never stack up against Rob's.
Yeah, it's almost the exact polar opposite, and I believe Rob's goes on for nearly a full minute, and Fairplay
36 seconds.
Yeah, who let that guy talk so long?
Fairplay's is all of 2.5 seconds. It's like a Quibi length of confessional time. So the question is, I don't know, because I feel like Rob's has so much more legacy. Fairplay's is hella entertaining. That's why it's in the top tier here. But I feel like both rocks have been dropped in the pond, and Rob's ripples have been echoing to this day, whereas Fairplay's made a big splash, but ultimately a smaller splash in the grand scheme of things.
Rob is Netflix, Fairplay is Quibi. I'm sorry. Is that where you're getting at?
Exactly. But I mean, nothing to say about the people involved or their respective podcasts. But I don't know. I mean, this is really splitting hairs between what are two incredible Confessionals from 2 incredible seasons, not to show my hand for my own season rankings. But yeah, I can't think of many reasons why at this moment I would put Fair Play above Rob, which I feel like sort of has the mixture of everything. Plus the fact that it's more of a high wire act. As I said, the longer you go, the harder it is to keep attention. And Rob's able to do so, whereas Fair Play, doesn't need to. It's a bigger accomplishment that way.
That's fair. I like this.
Okay. All right. Mike, what is next for you?
Well, the Rob stuff continues. We are going to the very next season where, Rob, you yourself had some explicit language come out during your time in Survivor All-Stars, but we're actually talking about a different Rob. We are talking about Boston Rob. When he votes out Alicia, he has no choice but to do so, but Rob's going to go a bit multilingual on us during his vote for Alicia here in Survivor
All right. What does Boston Rob have to say in his voting confessional?
Remember the little fight we had on day 3? I zipped my lip. I've been waiting to do this for 27 days. So, au revoir, adios, arrivederci, sayonara, as we say in Boston, see you later.
Okay.
So yes, Boston Rob's broken Duolingo confessional from Survivor All-Stars.
I mean, that's why he did so well on The Amazing Race,
Yes.
right?
Yes. What does he say at the beginning of this?
He says, remember that time on day 3.
Fight we had on day 3.
Right. Remember that fight that we had on day 3? Yeah.
I mean, you were around that fight.
Can I say that was a big deal, and I feel like that's something that could. I'm sure I talked about this in TEOS, but that was something that really screwed me up. Where Alicia and Boston Rob were fighting a ton, and I forget exactly what it was, but they had like a huge blow up over something, and I had just like a poop eating grin on my face from ear to ear because I'm like, yeah. This is great. This is me. This is okay. People are fighting. I'm nobody's mad at me. I'm loving this. This is things could not be better. And right after they had that big blow up, they were like, "Hey, Rob C, can we get you in confessional?" And I felt like that was really kind of blew up my spot with people. And I feel like that was I think that looking back that was a point where things really started to go downhill from there, where it was sort of I feel like that it was just very obvious to the group of oh, Cesternino is really liking that people are fighting.
It was more so okay, he's the one who's watching and is going to comment on the fight.
Yeah, I think I was coming off a little too little finger there in that spot where, but they were I was oh, Alicia's going to be the first person voted out, and Rob is Rob has had it with Alicia. This is great, and I'm in good with Rob, and he's had it with Alicia, and she's gonna go out. That's why I thought that Boston Rob would vote for Alicia when I got voted out, because they were fighting from early on. But
so are you saying that Bran Stark gets stabbed with a knife? And they're like, Peter Baelish, we need you to go write a Raven right now.
right. He seemed really happy about that. And and I don't know how much I was really happy, and also I'm trying to be a stupid idiot that's getting camera time of oh, how do I make this into my story of also okay, I gotta really I can't wait to be in confessional and talking about how great this is for me, and just a little bit of an overplay on my part, trying to ham it up in at that point in the game. But that really was a big deal, and Boston Rob is talking about it however many days this is later that he
took him 27 days to finally be able to make good on that word that he had.
And I also think give credit to Amber too, because I think that Amber and Alicia had a pre-existing relationship from both being on Survivor the Australian Outback, and I think that once Rob and Amber got together, I think that Amber was able to make the case for Alicia a lot more about how it seemed like that she was able to mediate any sort of problems in that relationship for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the fight about? Was it about camp stuff? Because I'm assuming day 3, it's around,
they're just both hard-headed about there was it was the way that something should have been done. I forget if it was something in the shelter or something like that, but it was some aspect of camp life that he was saying do it one way and she was saying do it a different way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was.
Had notes about this confessional then? Been Shouldn't have done it that way. I can't even understand you. You have to enunciate, Boston Rob.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. And we remembered it most recently in season 39 that Boston Rob is a bit like mealy mouthed at certain perspectives. So yeah, he's a bit mumbly, but I think people more so remember the adios, au revoir, arrivederci, or as we say in Boston, see you later. And there's also some callback. I don't know if this should be like included in the judging, but Alicia has sort of like a mirror confessional when she votes for Amber.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hashtag save it for the sequel, but the
final vote confessionals.
Exactly, yeah. Remember on this day when I said I promised you I never get write your name down. I'm a woman of my word, and that's how she's one of the indicatory votes for Amber to win.
Kim in the chat is asking about if it was during the Home Depot. It was prior to the Home Depot competition. This was like a very, very early on. This is like
this
the first.
Was like when Tina Weston was walking out of the game.
Right.
Actually, this could have been the day of your fake tribal council, Rob.
Yeah, it's like day 3, day 4. Yeah, sometime around there. Anyway, so all right, so Boston Rob voting for Alicia, and that was a bit of a blindside because just to go back to that episode, I believe this is the final 7, and there is like basically like the alliance of 6, the Shapira 6, and Sheehan is the odd person out, back to back. Sheehan talk here, 2 out of 3 in a row, where Sheehan was in the mix and she wins immunity. And so now somebody from that group has to go home. So
it really was sort of like the last one in, first one out thing where Boston Rob had made so many deals with people that he's like, I'll cast out Alicia here. She's the last person I made a deal with. And so that crafts his confessional here where he says goodbye to her in essentially 5 different languages.
Okay. All right. So, in an alternate universe, though, where I make it through that tribal council, this is where I get voted out in that season.
Oh, okay. So I mean, that's kind of good to know, I guess. Right?
Is he giving you the same language lesson?
I don't know. Yeah. But Shapira never vote again. They never vote anybody off again until. So if I would have made it through one more night, like I'm probably around for a while, just because unless I just get on everybody's nerves so much that I'm like the merge vote or something like that.
You get on my nerves and you annoy me. Nothing personal.
Yeah. So, all right. Here is Boston Rob and Leon. Did you get your thoughts on this first before we rank it?
I think the inaudibleness of the first part definitely takes away from the voting confessional, but I like the inclusion of multiple languages. I think that that's very important. Again, it also, like I said, foreshadows the Amazing Race success of it all. So for me, I like that element to it. Is this top tier for me? No, I don't think so. I think there are other ones that are more memorable, but I think that there are elements that I do like about this confessional.
Okay. Do you think that Boston Rob missed a career opportunity doing all the voices for It's a Small World, considering his worldliness of languages?
It's a world of laughter, a world of fun.
And they're all like little Dutch girls, little Mexican boys.
Yeah, they get to a point on the ride where it's like you go through France and Holland, and then it's like, oh wait, we're in Boston. And it's like,
classic.
Yeah. Okay. We're in the harbor. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right. This is not Ratchet, right?
No, I don't think so.
Value to this, even though, like you said, Boston Rob is far from, I think, the most charismatic in this voting booth. I think there's enough entertainment value to bump it up to the 3rd tier.
Okay. All right. So, is Boston Rob in this tier?
I kind of think so. Like, I'm trying to think, like, if I want to put him up next to his Marquesas buddy Sean, but it feels like Sean is on literally another level than what Boston Rob does here.
Yeah. Is he the top of this tier?
I'm trying to think of catchphrase. I love, for some reason, this catchphrase criteria. Like, I feel like that's something that we could use here. It's either, I mean, just saying things in different languages, is that enough? Like, is that enough? Whereas, again, like my ear infection is very specific.
So, Liana, I want to go to the punchline here, which he closes it with, or as we say in Boston, see you later. Now, is that a thing? Is that
Hey, Liana, you live the closest to Boston out of all of us. How many people do you run into that say "see you later" to each other?
Is that so specific to Boston? That's what you
Would
say.
it be better if it was like, oh, as we say in Boston, say hi to your mother for me?
Yes, and like make a Mark Wahlberg reference.
It's a little bit more regional. It's too broad.
Like as you say in Boston or see you in Cambridge. Like something very hyper specific.
See you later when we park the car at Harvard Yard.
As we say in Boston, see you later in Boston, where we currently are.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like he wrote Derek Jeter on the card. I don't know. Like what else?
No nicknames, people.
Jeter sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
No more forever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was still trying to think of like what the FU equivalent would be. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. You know what? I'm gonna be honest. Like this doesn't super move me. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Oh, but not my life is fine.
My life is no, not my life is fine.
Okay.
I would say it's an ain't no Hershey bar for me. I don't know. I have no strong opinion.
Okay, so let's just go one by one. Rob versus Rob with 2 Bs.
I like Rob with 2 Bs better than Boston Rob's, if we're being honest.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Not gonna die on this hill. Okay.
Yeah, I think Boston Rob has had. I think it also doesn't help that Boston Rob has had better, more entertaining moments. I think like this is not exactly indicative.
Yeah, by comparison. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Like it made this list for a reason.
Yeah.
But I do think it's probably on the lesser scale of like even like Boston Rob's Confessional and Redemption Island has more verve to it than what he does here.
Well, I'm just trying to think, is this Boston Rob's best voting confessional of all time?
No, because I think the one he cast for Francesca is pretty interesting, where he's like, you newbies make it too easy. All you have to do is just open your mouth or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he gets more iconic with the voting confessionals, I think, as you go along. So, yeah, definitely not going to die on this Boston Commons. So.
It's also, as you say in Boston. And I will also actually make a note here that just for diversity's sake, I have limited the confessionals to 1 per player. So you're only going to see like 1 Boston Rob appearance in this particular installment, and that will come into play with some people down the line.
Okay, we'll do a separate list for all of Boston Rob's voting confessionals.
There you go.
When we get into like week 100 of this, yes, definitely do that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, let's
close out the podcast with, or as they say in Boston, we'll see you later.
Yeah, that's Casey Kasem's little sign off.
Yeah.
Nothing personal.
They say in Boston, we'll see you later.
Also, now that I'm thinking about it, if it comes down to whether it will be on a T-shirt, unfortunately, Dan Rangering's confessionals do not make it onto the list here. His T-shirt making skills are second to none, but unfortunately, his confessionals are not.
What was his shirt?
It was very much in the fair play mode. It
had the F word in it. I don't
UK fake friend.
FBF. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was arranged like a crossword puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like the Hangman logo. Yeah, very odd.
B&B episode.
All right, so let's move on here to the very next season, and this is very rare. We are going to get 2 confessionals that show up in the same tribal council. So we are going to Survivor Vanuatu. It is the final 6 tribal council where Amy Cusack heads home. And Amy and Scout are going to not only vote for each other, but have very crosswords for each other.
Okay. All right. So we're going to hear 2 confessionals from the same.
We'll go together.
Okay.
Or...
All right.
We'll play 1 at a time. So we'll start with Amy, and then we'll talk, and then we'll do Scout, and then we'll talk. Unless you want to play them both together.
No, that's fine. All right. Here's Amy first. Okay. Amy, talk with T-Bird guest.
Well, Scout, you're pretty good at hiding your nasty side, but when your true colors come out, they're no part of any rainbow I've ever seen.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Some people are, I don't know if they're not great whisperers or the music is just too hot here.
Yeah, Russ Landau, stop showing off.
Listen, like I'm giving you volume realness in confessional booth, okay? Everybody else isn't going to do that. Everybody else is trying to be secret.
Okay, so wait, can we go over it one more time just to make sure I heard it all correctly?
Well, Scout, you're pretty good at hiding your nasty side, but when your true colors come out, they're no part of any rainbow I've ever seen.
You're no part of any rainbow that I've seen.
Yeah, when your true colors come out.
So,
I mean, this really good insult.
I mean,
love
it's meaningful in a number of ways because Amy and Scout are both part of the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
And so it was a pretty big barb of Amy, particularly by saying, when your true colors come out, you're not a part of any rainbow I know.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's a sick burn.
Yeah, you said it worked on multiple levels, though.
I mean, it was a sick burn, and it also had that
Rainbow
context.
has multiple levels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all you have to see it through a prism.
7 levels. Okay. All right. What did Scout say? Also, talking with T-Bird guest. T-Bird is really checking off the whole list of great confessionals. All right.
I do not think anything you imagine Scout is going to say is not going to compare at all to what she ends up saying here about Amy.
Okay.
Queens get dethroned, and a lightning will strike a lone tree on top of a mountain faster than anything.
Wow. That sounds like a scene out of Poltergeist or something. It's like a prophecy. It's like, I see a queen. She gets struck by lightning. It's going to be like, well, oh my God.
I think Shambo dreamt about that.
Yeah, exactly. Dave Ball standing on the mountaintop getting struck by lightning. Yeah, so Scout is a surprisingly shady castaway in Survivor. People might not remember her; they just think that she's sort of like the nicer old lady. But she there's one I think earlier on with Mia where she's like, "Good luck finding a husband." Like she is biting with some of these people, and she does it here with Amy, where she says, "Queens get dethroned," and it's a tall tree standing on a mountaintop gets struck by lightning.
Tall tree gets struck by lightning. Okay.
I like they're both related to weather phenomena. That for the
now, are we ranking these as a package deal, Mike?
No, I think we can separate them.
Okay, well, first, which is better?
I'll throw that question to you.
I think Amy's is better.
Okay, Amy's is better. Can I hear Scout one more time?
Queens get dethroned, and a lightning will strike a lone tree on top of a mountain faster than anything.
A lightning will strike a lone tree on the top of a mountain faster than you think?
Anything.
Okay, wait. I might be stupid, but can someone explain?
It links with the Queens get dethroned thing. Essentially, like you stick out like a sore thumb, or you put yourself on such a tall position that the lightning is going to hit you first.
So
science, Liana, this should be right in your wheelhouse.
I know, but does the queen? They're two separate things, though. But they are similar.
Yeah, they are two separate metaphors.
Because the queen is not with, is the queen hanging out by the tree? Did the queen plant the tree? Is the tree part of the queen's land?
Yeah, no, this isn't a continuing narrative. This isn't the story.
I know.
This isn't the queen's lightning.
Yeah. I like
you're the queen, and then the tree is a metaphor for being the queen.
Yeah, maybe that's unnecessary.
Two separate thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
That being said, I do commend it for the creativity. I don't think anyone else could turn Bob Dylan lyrics into a voting confessional, but here's Scout Cloud Lee doing just that.
Yes, and the cloud is for her control of the weather. So
maybe that's it. Maybe she's like a weather wizard.
She's like Storm.
I wouldn't stand that very long and white. Was that the X-Men recasting that we need for the MCU?
Who's Magneto?
All right, welcoming to the MCU, the X-Men, starring Scout Cloud Lee as Storm.
Yeah, that's a good podcast, I think.
I think we're going to have to do that. I think maybe an offshoot of this could be casting pop culture institutions with Survivor contestants.
Okay, sure. Hey, look, if it takes long enough for another season, we got time for all of it.
Because Russell Hantz is definitively Magneto, right?
We'll talk it through. We'll talk it through. I'm not going to make that call.
I don't even like that little X hat.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is that how he's able to find the idols without a clue? He
can manipulate everything, right?
They're metal on the idol. Okay. So, all right. Amy is better than Scout, but where do they go on the board? Okay. And are either of them ratchet? Who gets voted out here? Then Amy gets voted out?
Because Amy and Scout vote against each other.
Are we saying anything here like where the to the victor goes the spoils?
Ooh, interesting. Because Scout does technically get the last word. But to Liana's point, I think Amy gets the better dig in here.
Okay. All right.
Megan Scanlon says Ben Driebergen is Wolverine.
Yeah,
Which actually, Wolverine wore cowboy hats, and also he's unkillable. He has the adamantium skeleton made out of idols.
You have a Professor X, Mike?
I feel like Christian Kubicki.
Oh.
What about Tony? I feel like he's got the same haircut.
No, I think Tony's way too chaotic for Professor X.
Yeah, the Tony school.
Tony seems to me like a Quicksilver. Like he just seems like running around everywhere, being able to slow down time.
You gotta decide, like, well, who has the look, but who really is the personality of that person? There's a lot to chew on there.
I am Josh Douglas says Yule is Professor X. I like that. Is that a new layer of duplicity to the MCU?
Okay. All right. So, like, I feel like Ace has that look also. All right. Let's take a look here. Okay. All right. So let's see. Amy. So we say that first off, Amy is better than Scout. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How high does Amy go?
So it's interesting because I think of the insulting confessionals outside of Fair Play's FU, I think Amy has probably the best insult. You know, if you're comparing it to like Kelly Goldsmith and Greg specifically, I think Amy has the best one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is in my life is fine, at least for me, just because I'm like, I would be fine with it being at the end of my life is fine. But that her insult is the type of thing that I would write down and try to use, playing it off like it was my own insult.
Right.
So,
like you're like Liana's preparing for the snatch game. She's pre-scripting her reads. I think you throw something in like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's clever. It's an insult. Love it.
Okay. All right. Do you want to leave it here?
Yeah, I think Sean's is better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sean's has, and it's also Sean again has that impact of it being the fall of the road to 4. Amy gets voted out here.
Okay. All right. So Scout, is hers ratchet?
Do you think so, Liana?
And I don't like it. Like, I get it. Like, everyone has explained it. I understand. But for me, it just is, I'm like, whatever.
It's whatever. What about you, Mike?
I like the poetry of it. I would argue to bump it up to Ain't No Hershey Bar. That being said, I know that we haven't had anything in this bottom tier yet, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how bad the list is going to get. I agree, it's the worst of what we heard, but is it an abomination? Is it ratchet?
I think it's weird and it's unique. I think its uniqueness has a lot going for it, you know? That essentially should be pros to Amy Cusack.
Just because you're unique doesn't mean you're useful.
Like, you could have Twyla on a pair of bongos right now accompanying her as she talks about the queen getting struck by lightning.
All right. Well, let's get
poetry night.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about voting confessionals.
Also, I may go back in my word. I might want to bump Boston Rob up more than I think about it.
Okay, well, how far do you want him to go? Do you want him to go past regular Rob?
I think past 2 Bs, I think.
Hey, as we say in Boston, see you later. Okay.
Like
all
how
right.
you made him talk.
Yes. Liana, do you have any issue with that?
No, I have no problem with that.
Okay. All right. But not higher than Kelly Goldsmith. Is that what you want, Mike?
I don't know. What do you think, Liana? Do you think it could go past Kelly Goldsmith?
I think it could. Yeah. I mean, I think there's for Kelly, there's the history part of it that I think needs to be recognized. But at the same time, if I'm listing voting confessionals that I remember, that's not going to be one of them.
And I also will say that Rob has that, if we're talking about historical connotation, he has that mirror, again, as I said, from Alicia, of her doing the exact same thing, unintentionally so. Like, she didn't watch the tape back or anything. But, I mean, you know, these are two tough ones. I might inch Boston Rob over Kelly Goldsmith here.
I'm indifferent to this entire tier, so whatever you want to do with these.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. If you have a strong feeling there, okay, I'm not going to fight you on that. All right. Are we ready to hear the next one? We're going to have a big jump here, Mike. What happened?
Well, I mean, like we said, I think even as we start rounding the double digits, not too many big ones. Apologies to Lisi's Confessional Against Dreams. That does not make it here. We are going all the way to Survivor China. And unfortunately, my one confessional per survivor rule hits probably Courtney Yates the hardest. It was really tough picking a great Courtney Yates confessional, but I went with one of the OG ones. I went with Courtney Yates talking about one of her favorite subjects, or least favorite subjects, Jean Robert. This is the very first vote she ever cast for Jean Robert in episode 3 of Survivor China.
Okay, here we go. Here is Courtney.
First time for paranoia, second time for irritation.
Nope.
Sounds a lot like Greg.
Okay. let me see what's going on there. And then okay. Let me scrub through this, and then Mike, why don't you talk about that confessional for a moment while I get this straightened out?
Sure. So Courtney Yates is digging into John Robert. Look, there's a lot to get into when it comes to John Robert, but particularly his sleeping skills or lack thereof. So, I can't do it justice, but essentially, Courtney compares John Robert's snorings to choking a walrus.
I think Courtney is someone that when you talk about Courtney and you talk about confessionals, whether it be voting confessionals, regular good old fashioned confessionals, she's someone who jumps to the top of your list regardless kind of what that is. Like Courtney can't give really a bad confessional. And so even though we haven't heard it exactly yet, I'm still anticipating. I think that this will probably be top tier. I mean, she's someone who is iconic. And so sassy and so fabulous when it comes to burning people. And I like that as I'm learning that we're going through these. I like the insult ones. I like the ones that are clever insults. And so for her, I think this is like right up my alley of something I would enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, Courtney, to your point, is like just one of the shadiest contestants ever. And so when you say, okay, here's a piece of paper, it gives you the excuse to say something shady to somebody. She's going to take that and run with it.
Okay. I have the Courtney confessional here. All right. Here is Courtney from Survivor China.
I hope this is the last time I have to vote for you. Maybe we all can sleep now.
Okay.
Are you sure that should be from episode 3?
So that's what I have there.
Oh.
Okay. So we have maybe a technical issue.
All right. Well, if you want to, Rob, do you remember anything about the Courtney Yates missing confessional?
Not particularly.
I don't either. I mean, I remember a lot of dunks on Jean Robert, of course. But can I list them specifically? I don't know if I can do that from memory.
All right, yada here. I can find the real McCoy for us here while you want to talk through or plug something, I'm sure, while I find this confessional.
Like the idea of a Courtney confessional is always going to be good. I don't remember anything that she particularly said in a voting confessional.
Like, I'm going to put this, and at least my life is fine. Regardless of what it is, because it's Courtney.
So you just need like the Courtney brand of authenticity.
Yeah, exactly. Like I trust. I trust. I put my trust in her, and so that's fine.
Like I think her brand is really all these people are here annoying me. I'm not going to go out of my way to win any of them over. I don't really want to be here. Yet here I am.
Yeah. She's got a little bit of the physical humor too. I don't think it's really discussed because she has such a quick wit and she has such a biting tongue. But like the Russell, bandy-legged kind of her arm thing she does, like that's very funny. And so, and I think that adds to it as well.
Enough falsities here. I think I found the real confessional of Courtney Yates for Jean Robert. So this is from episode 3 of Survivor China. Let's see. I can play this for you right now. Here we go. There you go. Well, I'm voting for you because when you snore at nighttime, it sounds like someone is choking a walrus.
Okay. Were we supposed to hear that?
Oh, you did not hear it?
We heard the music.
All right. This is live podcasting, people.
Okay. Now that somebody is choking a walrus.
I literally paused for 5 seconds in silence, and then you said you couldn't hear it?
Well,
we heard music. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were doing a gag that you were then gonna read it.
No, I mean she spoke. I think maybe she was very hushed.
Okay.
All right. Well, I sent it to you, Rob, if you want to play it.
Okay. All right. Hold on. I think I think we can move on. I think we're good.
We got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel
bad. A lot of time on choking the walrus.
I don't know. Choking the walrus can mean something completely different.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it in this video.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I believe it. I trust. Top tier. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Mike. I feel that you feel very strongly about this one.
I think it's a classic Courtney insult in that it is creative. I think to the point that Liana made before, the thing about Courtney is she's not just going to say F you. She's not going to say you're ugly. She comes up with these extremely creative insults between bandy-legged troll, between get that feather out of your hair. And so I think the idea of John Robert snoring sounding like he's choking a walrus is a visceral image that I wish my own depraved mind can come up with. So I think it's at least decent. I think it's at least above replacement level here. I'm unsure whether to put it in my life is fine, but I just love the insult personally.
So does he sound like he is a choking walrus?
No,
or
it sounds like he's choking. Like his snoring sounds like someone is choking a walrus, is what she said.
I feel like that's. I could see it sounding more like he was a choking walrus.
Do we think if it's someone choking a walrus, that's sort of negative points because of the animal cruelty?
Well, John Robert's doing it, so it's more so against him than anybody.
Oh, I got it. Okay, so
it's
okay, I got it. So it's both an insult that he would choke a walrus and an insult that when he snores, he sounds like he is also choking a walrus.
You are what you snore.
I guess so.
Okay. It's creative. It's visceral. So I think that it really appeals to a Survivor historian in Mike Bloom. So has a lot going for it. So where does it go? It's not Ratchet.
I don't think it's Ratchet.
Okay.
I mean, it's in.
Is it taller than a tree on a mountaintop, in your opinion, Liana?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. I would say already start in my life is fine. I haven't even heard it, but I would put it up there. Right? It's better than an earache.
Yeah. All right. Your snoring sounds like someone is choking a walrus.
Yeah, I'm fine with it in this general area, and then for the person who's actually heard the confessional, I can let him do the final placement.
Rob can play it. I just set up the clip. It's 4 seconds long.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and open that up. And it's a little... it's not the easiest thing to switch between these screens, but I will... if Mike wants it. Mike gets it. Okay.
Thank you.
Here we go. Let's see.
I'm rooting for you because when you snore at nighttime, it sounds like someone's choking a walrus.
Yes.
Okay. Woo!
Did it meet your expectations, Liana?
It's quite the buildup. For the 4-second clip. Choking a walrus. I mean, I like that because I would like to get more creative with my insults. I feel like they're a little stagnant. And so I'm looking for areas of inspiration. And so I think that this is sort of like right up my alley.
Okay. So how high do you want it to go? Is it go past Amy?
No, I like Amy's better.
Yeah.
I think it also, again, we talked about this sort of like with Boston Rob. I think the potential, like Courtney has other confessionals that I think are more cutting than this. This is very reminiscent of, it's a microcosm of Courtney, but it not being like the one big go-to voting confessional that it does for Amy, I think deters her a little bit.
Yeah, I'm fine with this.
Okay. All right, Mike, let's go to another clip that hopefully we have.
Well, we have this one. I think we have met the end of the technical difficulties, unless someone gave away a voting confessional that prompted a certain Survivor contestant to have an unbelievable reaction to a series of events. Of course, I'm going to Survivor Micronesia, fans versus favorites. And Rob, you're talking about unprecedented editing. When Eric gave up the immunity necklace, there were stunned reactions all around. And for I think the only time in Survivor history, we saw every single vote in that tribal council. The one I want to hone in on this time around comes from Cirie Fields, of course. This is one of Cirie's finest quotes, in my opinion. Let's hear what Cirie has to say during the final 5 tribal council of Survivor Micronesia.
Okay, here is Cirie.
My mother always told me, you may not be able to beat him with these all the time, but you can always beat him with this. Sorry.
Okay.
Iconic. It's iconic.
I love this confessional so much. This is absolutely fabulous. I wish Survivor showed this moment more because they never talk about Eric giving up the necklace. They just never discuss it. So I feel like this just deserves all the credit in the world. It's fabulous.
I feel like that they will give you that you get Eric giving up the necklace, and then you get Parvati being like, Eric, you are the dumbest survivor.
Right. That's one I decided to save for the sequel. I wanted to put a few bullets in the chamber if we pursue this next time, and that's definitely another great 1-2 punch.
But Liana, you make a great point that the Suri one is more like an encapsulation of the entire show, where the Parvati is more just like dunking on Eric still.
Well, yeah, Parvati's is the one that you use as the soundbite for the moment, as Liana is saying. Suri, you could use as a soundbite for Suri. Like, this is Suri's entire MO, right? You can't beat him with this, but you can't beat him with this. This is the woman who got off the couch back in season 12.
Okay.
She got up off the couch. Yes, I love this. I love this. This is top tier for me. And it's not even a question because I love Suri. I remember I got to be the Suri expert.
Yes, the Game Changers.
The Game Changers expert on Suri. And she is one of my favorite Survivor contestants. And like you said, Rob, like this confessional is just so poignant. It paints a picture of Micronesia, but also just in general of a strategy that you can use on Survivor and in the real world. Iconic. Yas queen.
I love the cinematography on it. It's weird to say considering it's a static hold on someone, but we even see in this picture, Suri like is poking her head above the vote in like a very Suri giggle way, right? So like she's not even fully displaying herself. The fact that she's positioning herself like Wilson from Home Improvement above the vote is also very unique in and of itself.
Suri would be a good neighbor that you can go I mean, I see you're having an issue over there, Rob. What's going on? Like
feel like take a look at this.
The kids won't stop screaming when they're playing Nintendo.
Talk about notable hats. And I think also the physical motion too of the like tap to the bicep and the tap to the head. Also iconic.
Yeah, not a lot of gestures known in these voting confessionals. So Suri brings that physical game in that perspective.
And when I hear that confessional, that I think of that too. I think of the physical motion. I will stump for this confessional.
So yeah, so here's the thing then, Liana. Is it better than Fair Play and or Rob himself?
Personally, yes. I argue that it goes above both because of aforementioned reasons. Yet I understand Puya and I have had this when we do his tier list on Tier List Tuesday, where I feel very strongly, he feels very strongly. We have to come to a compromise. So I think the question is how do the two of you feel? Is this the Boston Commons you'll die on, or is this a discussion that we will have?
As I've said earlier, I have had to recuse myself from the worth playing for tier.
Well, you can participate in the fair play, right? Better or worse than fair play.
Better than fair play, for sure.
Okay,
I love the brevity of Fair Play's one, but Suri's, it also helps that Suri's comes during one of the most epic and talked about moments in Survivor history too, right? There's that linking to it, whereas Johnny Fair Play, it's Sean Cohen gets voted out. I think
hers is still in the episode.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't have
you
to
have
edit
to get
it
a
out
bootleg VHS to see Cerise.
Be like, oh, let me whip out my DVD copy so we can hear the voting confessional. You get to actually hear Cerise when they put it on Netflix. You know what I mean?
I mean, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna make it number one. I'll put it above Rob's for now. So at least we're not being accused of nepotism here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me make this easy for everybody. That whenever you're trying to decide between Rob C and Suri, pick Suri.
That's a good call.
I always do.
Suri needs to be in first place for once.
Yeah.
Yeah, she needs to win something. If I can be part of the reason why Suri wins,
she gets so close.
Then
she gets so close. Okay. All right. So, Mike, are you ready to move on to the next one?
Let's move on. We are going to the very next season, and we're going to a friend of the podcast, though maybe not friend after we talk about his confessional here. Let's talk about Randy Bailey. Randy has quite a couple, considering he was not one to mince words in Survivor Gabon, but during the Merge Tribal Council specifically, when he voted for Crystal, he had a fair play-esque confessional is the way I'll put it.
Okay, this is Randy voting for Crystal. This is a B word.
Yep, that's all he says, and then just moves on.
Yeah. Okay. That's tough. Tricky.
Why was
All
that
right.
the one you chose?
I mean, I like that one. I like it. I know people would say I mean, it's Randy. That's Randy right there being like, bitch, and then puts it away.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have crystals?
I mean, I have crystals, but that's next.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
Huh. It's simple.
Succinct.
Succinct.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You don't like it. Is what? Just say it. You don't like it, Liana.
I think that Randy has clever insults,
Mm-hmm.
and this is not one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is this ratchet?
I could see it. Should we do it only for the content of having Randy yell at us for making it ratchet?
Well, I don't want to get yelled at by Randy, but
Oh yeah, that's true.
let's just, how about this? Let's have it here in the forget you go home goodbye tier, and just under the our reasoning is we think you're better than this, Randy.
Yes. Right.
We think you could do better. We think if you apply yourself, there is a choking walrus insult that you can go for.
That being said, I do feel like this is emblematic of Randy a bit, though, right? Again, he was a bit of a grouch to someone like Crystal, as an example. So he is more than happy to just unfold the vote, say bitch, and then put it away. I know that I think probably his more well-known confessional is this vote isn't strategic, it's simply personal. I feel like that was maybe too bit of a shot off of the Rob Zabachnik's thing.
You think that he was riding off of Rob Zabachnik's? Rob Zabachnik had to walk so Randy could run.
What's the opposite of skateboard hitchhiking, where you hang onto the skateboard? That's
Marty
what
McFly.
Randy's doing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, all right. Are we good? Is Randy here in the bottom tier?
I can hear him now saying fair plays was just F you. You're going to put fair plays in the top tier. You're going to put mine in the bottom tier. You know,
We drop fair play down.
I think that's my concern. There's something about the way fair play says you that makes me laugh.
Well, I think the other thing as well is that Randy is still trying to maintain some decorum and like whisper bitch. Fair play doesn't care. Fair play full-throatedly says F you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe maybe that's something to remember here. If you're going to go with sort of like the very base insult, then don't whisper it. That's a half measure. You're gonna
say it loud, say it proud.
Yeah, you're gonna curse somebody out. You know, you let everybody hear what you're gonna say, and I think that's a good setup for our next entry.
Say it for the people in the back.
Yeah.
So people Probst tells you it'll never make the air.
People have been biding their time right now. Let's dig up some Crystal, baby. Here is Crystal Cox, the very next tribal council, returning the favor to Randy.
Okay. Here is the legend, Crystal Cox here.
You have made my life hell from day one. To get you, go home. Goodbye.
That's lovely.
I mean, this is immaculate in every sense of the word. It has a stature as tall as Crystal Cox herself, and she ain't getting struck by lightning anytime.
Yeah, watch out for the lightning. Can we hear it one more time?
We have to.
You have made my life hell from day one.
What's the bell? Like, did somebody? That was Randy reacting? Yeah.
Well, no, it is. So because Crystal obviously does not use her indoor voice here.
Yeah.
So there is a prominent reaction of people looking up when they hear Crystal essentially scream from the voting booth, "You have made my life hell from day one."
Yeah. I'm just not sure why we get the Liberty Bell.
Because it's America.
Crystal crack.
Get you, go home. Goodbye.
Why did they not have that bell come out when Haley Ford got voted out both times?
Yeah. They could have.
When she was comparing the Worlds Apart merge to the colonists.
All right. Here is Crystal Cox. Liana, you want to weigh in on this?
I mean, this is great. I love this. Smiling the whole time. Forget you, go home, goodbye. That's one of the ones that I can quote without having to, to think about this list. So definitely love that.
Okay. Let's take a look at where it is. Okay. Is Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye in the Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye tier?
I mean, as much fun as that would be, I'm going to put it in the exact opposite. Rob, this is my favorite confessional so far.
Ooh.
Number one.
Number one right now. Sorry, Suri.
Wow.
Okay. All right. So I don't need to recuse until it gets down to number 3. So, Liana, you stumped for Suri.
Yeah, so this is tough because this is almost like two different axes of confessionals, right?
Polar opposites.
Right, because you're talking about something that is Suri's is strategic. It's all about the move. It's all about the gameplay. And Courtney's is the exact opposite. It's like, you make my life a living hell. Go home.
Crystal.
Yeah. So like that's what makes them. They are each iconic in their own way, and it's tough to do the comparison. Very apples versus oranges, but I still think Suri's is better. I think the iconicness of the Eric vote also just adds to the confessional. Like, it's all about that moment,
Great moment.
Yes, exactly.
Now, Randy getting voted out is an iconic moment.
True.
In the show.
True.
I would like to add to the discourse that I almost feel like that Crystal's is sort of like the perfect encapsulation of what a voting confessional should be.
I love that.
It's almost like
standard.
Survivor is you go on the show, you get to write down somebody's name that you don't like on a piece of paper and say, I'm voting you out. Get out of here. I never want to see you again. That is so cathartic. I feel like that's why people want to go on Survivor. No?
It's what the confessional is supposed to be, right? Because it's supposed to be the logic of why you're voting that person out, right?
Yeah.
And that's her logic.
Uses this as a great excuse to just talk about like her general philosophy, which is epic. But there is something about Crystal's that, I mean, it's also, talk about memorability. I think whenever people think about what's one of the best voting confessionals, they always come back to Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye. It breaks the sound barrier to the point where they actually show it prominently. Like, they could have done that, I'm assuming, Rob, during yours, but they really make mention of it here that Crystal does not give an F. She has F to take. That's how many she has to give. And the fact that they showed like she doesn't care so much, she has so much disregard for Randy in this moment is just, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear the reasoning, I hear the logic. I think for my own, like, personally, if I was doing this just me, I would still put Suri first, but I'm more than happy for Crystals to be number 1 because I think all of that logic is totally sound.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like Crystal at number 1. I feel like that Suri could just as easily have been a confessional and not even like in a voting booth. And I feel like it would have been the same impact. I mean, it's she's holding up the vote, but it's not really about Eric. It's more about a plan that came together. Like, that could have been the last confessional you see before they go to tribal council, where Suri
it could be the script that pops up before like an inspirational film of like, you can never beat him with this, but you can beat him with this. Suri before like a biography plays.
Yeah, but that could be a tagline for a movie, which is great. It's so inspirational. It's what the Mighty Ducks aspire to be.
It could be the tagline of Survivor: Brains versus Beauty versus Brawn, either edition.
I believe Air Bud. There's a quote from Air Bud. The classic sports movies.
Yeah. All right.
So,
Mike,
so she's the exact opposite of Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye. She is remember you, come here, hello.
Yeah, go big or go home.
Bad bye.
It's bizarro Crystal. All right. So, Mike, are you ready to talk about our next entry?
All right, let's go to another big Survivor character in his own right. We got to go with Coach in Tocantins. And Coach gives many names for himself, but I believe in this confessional, when he is voting off Brendan, that is when he formally coins himself something that we still call him to this day.
Okay, here is Coach Wade.
Samurai used to say that if you wanted to win the war, you had to cut off the head of the dragon. You, my friend, are the dragon. I am the Dragon Slayer.
Okay, the Dragon Slayer is born. Liana, how do you feel about this?
It's is this the origin story? We're talking about X-Men earlier, right? Is this where it all stems from? This is the lightning that strikes the tree at the top of the hill that spawns the Dragon Slayer, you know? And that has to be something in its favor.
It does seem historically significant, even though the Confessional itself is not particularly, OTT or super memorable.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's tough because, to your point, I think in terms of Coach, it's not memorable because Coach is one to tell these prolific, lengthy stories. But I think it's memorable in the sense of Confessionals that he is painting a picture right now of the ancient samurai said you had to cut the heads off of dragons, which is a little like weird anachronistic. Like, I'm pretty sure dragons are affiliated with medieval times and samurai are not. I find it weird that maybe there's some sort of time traveling delinquent who brought the dragons and the samurai together for Coach's story here.
Mixing genres.
Yeah. Has anybody ever said cut the head off the dragon?
I don't know. Like the Marcus Aurelius quote. Or the guy who invented Jerry Curl. But I mean, this is epic for a number of reasons because, to your point, Rob, that you made at the very beginning of this podcast, Coach was ready to say this. He was building out this whole thing of, I'm going to say that I am the Dragon Slayer. I'm going to build out this whole narrative that Brendan is the dragon. It doesn't matter what the time period is because I am the Dragon Slayer. I'm going to have a dragon cane. I'm going to come up with a band called the Dragons. I'm Dragon Man right now.
Yeah. Okay. It's important, I think.
It's important. And, also it stays with Coach for so long, right? Like, this is the origin story. And so I think that that's very powerful, and then you get a lot of follow-up from that because I don't know if it's necessarily, I mean, yes, of course you have the Dragon Slayer, but then, when Probst is like questioning him about, oh, didn't you say you wanted to go up against the best? Well, I am the winner, like I went up against the best, I beat the best. Is that sort of that whole narrative that falls out after this? So I think this is, this has to be at least in the second to top tier, if not top tier.
I think I'm thinking at least second to top tier because I also love how coachy it is and that it's also like a little mixed up. Again, not even the metaphor, like it's cut the head off the snake, not cut the head off the dragon.
Yeah.
They're reptiles.
Yeah, but if I said cut the head off the crocodile, you'd be like, that doesn't sound right.
Classic saying.
All right. So here is Coach. Speaking of wildlife, do you like cutting the head off the dragon or choking the walrus?
That's a hell of a would you rather, Big Jeff.
Would you rather choke one walrus and be done with them or keep your current relationship with walruses?
I think that's an Amazing Race detour.
We stay in Chicago. See you later.
In Choke the Walrus, you'll have to sleep in the tent with a snoring giant man.
And cut the head off the dragon. You must saw back and forth all the tough as nails to cut the head off a wooden dragon, which is used to adorn the festivals every year here in Mongolia.
During the Mongolian movie scene. I think this is better than Walrus. I think Dragon beats Walrus here.
Any day of the week.
That's the perfect rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
Dragon, walrus, rainbow.
All right. Does Dragon beat Rainbow?
I kind of think so.
I think so too. Although that really makes Walrus, Dragon, Rainbow game not really work all that well when you have Dragon being so OP. But
I guess
Dragon flies over the rainbow. Yeah.
And what does Rainbow defeat? How does Rainbow defeat Walrus?
It makes it too wet and slippery.
Okay, and then Walrus defeats Dragon because it's too slippery to get a hold of.
Well, the dragon already defeated the walrus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, no, it also flies over the rainbow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Beat Waffles.
No, I think it stops here. I think Sean's timing helps put it over Coach's right here because this is Coach granted slaying the dragon, but like you said, Liana, like. This is far from the end of Coach's battle.
Yeah. Sean's is really, really good. That Coach's, the Confessional itself is not memorable. It's more memorable that it's the origin story for sort of the legend of Coach.
I will also give extra credit to Aaron, who I believe in voting out Coach at the final 5 says Dragon slayed.
Yes.
Very good.
It comes,
That's fun
narrative
little
comes full
Okay.
rainbow.
All right, full rainbow. All right. A double rainbow. Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right. Mike, what's next?
We're going 2 seasons ahead, and let's talk about someone who was on Coach or with Coach on the Villains Tribe. No, we're not talking Daniel DiLorenzo. We are talking Sandra Diaz Twine. Here is probably one of the most badass confessionals we're going to get in this installment. This is Sandra voting out Rupert in Survivor Heroes versus Villains.
I'll write your name again, and if I'm up there in the final 3, you'll still give me the $1 million vote.
Boom.
And he did.
Yeah.
Pen drop.
Okay. All right, here's Sandra. Any thoughts on the Sandra confessional, Liana?
It's well edited with the music too. Right? I think that crescendo right after, it's the foreshadowing of it that I love. I think that it encapsulates Sandra quite well. You know, she's not necessarily burning a hat, but I think that you learn so much. Like if you just played that clip of Sandra's confessional, you learn so much about her as a person just from hearing that clip. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and so obviously Sandra had a number to choose between. I think the other big one in contention from Heroes versus Villains was go into the ocean and wash your ass. But I feel like that's also representative of Sarah, very, very, very insulting. This is the really fun part of Sandra, of like she calls her shot and it often ends up coming true. Like the reason why this is so highly regarded is because that exact same thing happens of like, I'm going to write your name down right now. I'm going to play my idol to guarantee you go home. And you're still going to vote for me to win $1 million again.
But without the knowledge of how it's all going to work out, is this as good? Like on a first watch?
I mean, not on first watch, but like I think we can't divorce that from it. You know, we've been talking about how tribal councils play out in incorporation with these. I think it's tough to not incorporate that ending, because if that ending doesn't happen, then this confessional probably doesn't even get shown, you know?
Right. It's part of the whole story. You have to think about it in its totality.
Okay. All right. Well, let's look at the board and let's see where it goes. All right. Not Ratchet, right?
Definitely not Ratchet.
Okay. Better than Scout saying Amy's going to get struck by lightning.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely in at least my life is fine. And I could maybe even hear an argument. I don't know. I can maybe hear an argument about worth playing for, but I might have to bump some others up as well.
Okay. Liana, how are you feeling about it here?
I'm trying to think of if you're going to put crystals at the top, because, okay, this is what a voting confessional should be. It's like you getting to say something to the person that you're voting out. How does Sandra's fit into that criteria? Because can you play it one more time? Does she insult him? It'd be great if there was an insult.
I mean, I feel like it's a little implicit, I think, of like, I've got you under my thumb so much that I'm going to
you're a dumb.
You're still going to vote for me. Yeah.
Yeah, here it is.
I'll write your name again, and if I'm up there in the final 3, you'll still give me the $1 million vote.
And remember, this also does come after the whole, like, I'm against you, Russell, where, like, she knows that Rupert and Colby are going to be voting for her tonight.
Okay. For me, I feel like that I think this is better than the Walrus. I think it's better than the Rainbow. And I could listen to it being better than Coach, but I don't think it's better than Sean.
I could see that as well. Yeah, and I don't know, because I'd also like, I could bump it up, but I also would, to your point, like would bump Sean up as well if that's the case.
Because here's one of my metrics that I use that I think about before I hit the space bar on my Mac here. Do I know what I'm about to hear? And in the case of Sandra, that if you gave me an hour and said, what did Sandra say when she voted out Rupert? I would not have guessed this.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have guessed it off the top of my head, but it's, I couldn't have guessed it, but if you'd given me the options, I think I would have picked the right one.
If this was ultimate Twitch trivia and I gave you a list of
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes, exactly. That I'd have to get the choices. I'm only going for a point.
Yeah, where I would have gotten it wrong with 4 choices.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, how did Scout describe Amy? I don't think any of you would have guessed being struck by lightning.
Okay. All right. So, Liana, help us talk it through here in this tier.
I think above rainbow, but below dragon is probably where I would stick this one for me.
Okay. All right. Mike, how do you feel about that? I know you thought
I
be on the top tier.
I would put it above dragon at least, because at least like I as much as you say like, well, if we divorce it from the prophetic nature, does it hold any weight? But that's why it's so good. Is because she ends up doing that. I can't think of any other voting confessional here which stakes a claim so much as Sandra does, and I feel like that unique.
Wait, did Amy get struck by lightning?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if these are exactly like horoscopes. Sandra's the only one that's an outright horoscope and a vote.
Did Alicia ever go to Boston
and say "see you later" to anybody?
Yeah, or have it said to her?
Did Sean ever get chicken and waffles?
Okay. Liana, should it be past coach?
I'm indifferent, to be honest. I feel like Sean should maybe get moved up a tier. I don't know. I don't know if we're at that yet.
I'm good with bumping Sean up.
Because then I'm okay. I feel because I feel like there's a separation between Sean's and the rest of them, especially thinking
I
about.
Agree. Yeah,
I think now that we're going through them, especially,
making a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think this. Yeah, exactly. It fits.
All right. Let's go back to the well. All right, Mike, what is next?
This is a weird one.
Oh, boy.
People may not remember a young man by the name of Benry Henry from Survivor Nicaragua. He is one of the most random characters in Survivor history. He had a lot of strange moments, and one of them comes here at the merge when she votes for Alina.
Yep. Liana, before I play this clip, do you know what this is?
I think so. You know, the favorite among many Survivor season Nicaragua is, I'm sure, quotable, but I believe I know what this one is.
I definitely know what this is. Okay, here we go.
You are a 100% grade A dirt squirrel, and it's time for you to go home.
Yeah, so that it sounds like there's a little bit of a rattle that maybe you're thinking that's like part of the score. No, that is a sound that Benry makes, which I guess is the sound of a dirt squirrel.
I mean, it's a man-made sound, to your point.
Yes.
Of a dirt squirrel.
Okay. This was something that almost 10 years ago we had a lot of discussion about on the podcast. Actually, no, it was 10 years ago that we tried to figure out what is a dirt squirrel. And I don't know if we ever really got the answer, but I don't think it's flattering.
No, I mean, I'm looking on Urban Dictionary right now, and I'll try to keep it.
That is my Bible.
It's a two-legged female that scavenges for nut, and that's a bad one.
Yeah. Okay, good.
That's a
Is
bad
it
one.
related
No,
to Pizza Rat?
I found another one that says a person who conducts themselves in a trashy manner could be a hygiene issue or a behavior issue.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
I think there's other words you can use. Yeah.
Let's not remember the first definition that I read.
Okay.
What about like a dirt weasel? Is that worse?
A dirt weasel?
Yeah, I feel like there are other animals that you could stick in there that could be worse.
Or consistency of dirt.
walrus.
Like if you were called a mud squirrel, would that be worse?
Yeah, right, exactly. This is the turf weasel.
Turf weasel.
Turf weasel sounds like some sort of like garden instrument.
The sod walrus.
The sod walrus.
I'm just mixing and matching here.
Yeah,
Okay.
the old sod walrus.
Yeah. Being a
Snoring
real
like a
sod
sod
walrus.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if Alina was a dirt squirrel. I never got any information.
I don't think we know I don't think we know anything about Alina. The only thing we knew, maybe they called her Dirt Squirrel because wasn't there that whole thing with like her and Nyanka were like hoarding food and they were burying it in the dirt. So maybe that's why he called her Dirt Squirrel.
I don't know why he called her that. We have no reasoning into why he called her that. And Alina was sort of like a purple character in that season. There were a few. And I feel like that was like, oh, wait, who is Alina? Why is she a dirt squirrel?
But also at the same time, it's also, who is Benry? Like, Benry himself was not purple. He certainly had weird moments, like, it's Benry time, baby, I think was one of his other voting confessionals. But, like, this was also another guy where, like, he was sort of like the proto Seabass. of like this guy just pops out of nowhere every 3 episodes, says a weird thing, and then disappears.
No Laffy Taffy, but
yeah.
And this also, I mean, this is you're given the opportunity to say something to the person you're voted out. I mean, Benry took advantage of that.
This is Benry's finest hour in Survivor.
This is Benry's only hour on Survivor.
One time then Benry, this is like maybe in season 22, that he was supposed to be on the podcast, and so we had him, and then he called in to the podcast. I think he was at a Dodger game and he had not watched the episode from the night before.
So you were listening to a baseball game in the background while he's being like, yeah, that sounds fun.
Or like he was like leaving a Dodger game, something like that. Yeah.
Not his finest hour.
I don't know. Maybe he was out there with a bunch of squirrels. Did you hear it in the background?
No.
Yeah, the sound effect is important.
Yeah, the Foley work, Dan Foley work is second to none here on Ben's part.
Okay. The dirt squirrel. Are we feeling this or not?
I'm feeling it because again, I sort of like I like the Scout-esque stuff of like this is just so odd, and to Benry's point, especially out of nowhere. But I think it really is polarizing as to like I could see it up high because it is so unique and out of nowhere, but I could also see it down very low because it doesn't have maybe as much like linking up with Benry's character, which is nothing.
Yeah.
It's surround an iconic moment in Survivor.
No. Alina getting voted out. Was she the merge vote, Mike?
She was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Urban Dictionary really is the go-to source for all things dirt squirrel.
No, the definition that I read is much like a dirt squirrel, not very clean whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay. Another definition is facial hair of substandard quality, more specifically around the upper lip and chin, as in Sidney Crosby possessed the best dirt squirrel in the 2008 NHL playoffs.
Wait, so if you have a bad mustache goatee combo, you could be called a dirt squirrel?
No, you have a dirt squirrle.
Okay, so if you have a dirt squirrel, if you have like the Matthew von Ertfelde like mustache goatee combo.
Yeah. Also, I guess a dirt squirrel could be a man also. A dirt squirrel is a guy who wears loose tank tops with either a beer advertisement or NASCAR on it. Someone who might put Kool-Aid in a baby bottle.
Well,
One who wears to their kids in public.
I found something. I found a company named Dirt Squirrel.
Is it owned by Benry?
I don't know, but it puts out a lot of underwear.
Yeah. Another definition is a female that changes boyfriends often. That's a very family friendly way of putting it.
Sort of like no, the subject of the song "No Scrubs" would be a dirt squirrel.
Yeah.
I don't want no dirt squirrel.
Bring back the wand off. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else on Benry?
I mean, there's so much I could say about Benry.
His name was Ben Henry.
His name is Ben Henry. His brother, I believe, is marrying Annalise from Australian Survivor.
We should get him back on the podcast. So he's got a lot of stories.
Which maybe he won't be able to attend a baseball game this time. Which, by the way, I will also say, unfortunately, international episodes have been excluded from this. Otherwise, the I'm voting Annalise in Australian Survivor 2017 would definitely be on here.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Benry, not Ratchet.
No, I definitely think he's at least an Ain't No Hershey bar. It's so interesting. Like, it's so weird to me. I kind of want to put it like near or above his fellow weirdo Greg Buis.
Yeah. So many of these I do not recall. If you asked me though, like woke me up in the middle of the night, I was like, Rob, what did Benry say? Dirt squirrel.
Oh no, it's just like a walrus.
Yeah, I think that definitely adds to it. It's something that I would remember. So I think it's above. Is it in the bottom of my life is fine? Is it above that?
I could either see it in the bottom of my life is fine or the top of Ain't No Hershey bar.
I think because it's. I mean, Rob, would you remember the earache or the ear infection?
Yeah, I would not. I did not remember that. So. I don't know. I kind of feel like that I'm almost seeing like a different category, or maybe it kicks off another category of maybe it should be ahead of ahead of Courtney and kicking off the very odd insults.
The odd animal insult category.
I like Courtney's more though, because Courtney's has context. Like Courtney's hatred of John Robert was evident, and so I feel like it has less of the random factor than Benry sort of relies on here.
But I kind of like the random factor part of it. It's such a weird insult.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not only is she a dirt school, she's a 100% grade A dirt school. So like she went to dirt school.
FDA certified.
Yeah, like
right.
has a doctorate. Don't write an
MD.
op-ed about whether Alina should lose that thing. She's earned it.
Mm-hmm. And the sound effect too. Don't forget.
Listen one more time.
You are a 100% grade A dirt squirrel, and it's time for you to go home.
Do you want to be a grade A dirt squirrel? Like, if you were
like, is it the higher grade you are, the worse you are?
Mike, if I called you a grade B dirt squirrel, would you be more insulted or less insulted?
I would be more insulted because it's like, at least like if it's bad, I still want to be the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's more insulting to be like a lower grade at something that's bad.
Yeah. A for Alina.
Like the USDA grade dirt squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you want to be a higher grade.
Show.
I think the fact that there's more to it, the sound effects, I think it's better than Courtney's.
All right,
I agree.
So I think I side with
all right,
Rob
I'm
here.
overruled here, but I'm fine with that.
Okay, your life is fine.
Let's keep it in the zoo here.
Okay, Liana, you don't want to put Benry past Amy, right?
I think the weird insults go together.
Okay.
Amy's is clever.
All right. So let's go now to a few seasons later, Mike.
Yeah, we are going to Survivor Philippines, and the short confessionals did not go away with Johnny Fairplay and Randy Bailey. Of course, Jonathan Penner's going to make an appearance here, one of Survivor's all-time greatest narrators. He is someone who knows his time is up. This is his last boot episode ever in Survivor so far, and he's going to let everybody know who he's voting for.
Denise.
Incredible.
I'm happy that you kept in the laughing.
You let the snorts also.
Yeah, I mean, there's a walrus there.
Choking walruses, yeah.
But yeah, but this is the polar opposite. Like it's the exact same intent as Crystal's of like, I don't give an F, but it has the exact opposite reception, which I think also talks about how Crystal and Jonathan were received by their respective seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
And this is memorable, stands the test of time.
Yeah. Also, yeah, and that you can't really see it in the clip, but he's also like yelling back, like he's like it was like intentional. Denise.
So it's not even a Crystal thing where it's like I happen to be projecting loudly and the sound kind of pours backwards. He is directing that sound to be like, by the way, I'm voting for Denise.
Also, Mike, does he write denies on the paper?
He does, yes.
Yeah.
I think that might be a Carter vote accidentally, but no, I believe he does like try to send a message with that.
Yeah, it's intentional. Okay. All right. So let's look at Penner and figure out, this is going to be a tough one to place, I think.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough one because it's really memorable, and I think it is so evocative of Penner as a character. But I would say at least that I think Johnny Fairplay's, like, I think Crystal had the better loud confessional. I think Johnny Fairplay had the better, like, short and sweet confessional. What this thing has unique to it is this is probably the only time, because another thing that's part of a voting confessional is you're not supposed to say who you're voting for because someone might hear you.
Yeah.
Penner breaks that convention and says, this is who I'm voting for.
I think what this one has that's different is that Penner knows he's going home. Everybody knows that they're going. So that everybody has to go through the whole charade of the whole song and dance to vote out Penner. They like Penner. He's just not part of the plan. So there's no disdain for Penner. Penner is like, is not happy, but like gets it. So it's weird. It's yelling, but it's not like I hate you.
Right.
It's like you SOB.
Yeah, I mean, this is also Penner, right? This is like he's sarcastic. Even when he knows his time is up, he's still going to go out with a joke. This is also fantastically, you know, when he's whistling the Survivor theme song as he walks off, and Jeff Probst does the big shrug afterwards. Like this is part of just the fantastic send off to Jonathan Penner as a Survivor contestant.
Yeah, it's a bit in a category of its own, you know, because of all of that, and the fact that he leans over his shoulder to call back to everybody else. Right, no one else is doing that. They're solely focused on the camera that they're delivering their message to. He doesn't even seem to care about the camera because clearly his message is not for the camera. And that makes it tough to slot it in here because of all of the uniqueness when it comes to this voting confessional.
Okay. So where should he be in Ain't No Hershey Bar?
No, I think he needs to be in At Least My Life Is Fine.
In My Life Is Fine. Okay. Do we put him past the odd insults?
The animals.
The animals in the rainbow.
It's so memorable that I feel like it has to be
I think it has to supersede at least past Amy.
Okay. Well, how far does it go? Is it better than Coach?
I think it's better than but Coach's is so iconic and memorable too. Oh, this is tough.
It though? Is it that Coach's legacy? But this is like the end of Penner's legacy. Like Coach's legacy starts in a lot of ways here. Penner's ends. It's the last page of the book for his Survivor journey.
Okay. I think it goes in the top tier, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because I remember it, I can quote it, and I can tell you all about it. And what I had to go back. Liana, what did you say at the beginning of the podcast? You said that if you could remember this one and you could talk about it without having to be reminded, then that means that it's top tier. And so I think for that very reason, we have to put it in the top tier because all of the other ones in the top tier, I could tell you about.
Okay.
That is a good point. I think that these 6 right here, I think us 3 can all quote word for word. Granted, some of them are 1 or 2 words. Whereas I think that the second tier, people you could remember, but you might not be able to get into every single minute syllable that they said.
Yeah.
Or like I think there's sort of 2 groups within My Life Is Fine because Sandra and Coaches kind of go together and they're part of the larger narrative. They're really impactful when you remember them and you put them within the context of the story. Then we sort of have the clever / weird insults group there. So that's the striation between all of the groups.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad we're seeing some patterns start to emerge here. All right.
Like
Mike, who is next? 3 left.
3 left. And of course, this would not be a Survivor discussion if we did not include Netflix's new darling, Survivor Cagayan. We are going to the premiere, huge episode, huge moment as Spencer Bledsoe, soon to be caught up in a blindside against Garrett Adelstein, attempts to vote out Jatia and lets out this little barb.
Okay.
Engineer is genuinely scary.
Fun episode. All right. Spencer voting for Jatia.
Oh man. Favorite scientist since
Jatia
Amelia Earhart.
Jatia gets the last laugh. Jatia 1 sequester win, Spencer 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is this in the insult category for you, Liana? Because it's definitely reminiscent of like Amy's comment, right?
Yeah. And by the way, that I've been a part of some of these panels that Jatia has, or she's very detail oriented. I think that Spencer should rest a little easier at nighttime if Jatia is working on any big nuclear projects.
I trust her. Yes, I mean, so this is okay. So this definitely falls under that category of you want to say something to the person you're voting out. You don't want them to hear, and you're like, I want to insult this person. I'm going to let them have it by voting confessional.
One-sided roast. I get to say something to you. You don't get the opportunity to say something back to me because you're hopefully going to be voted out.
I get to give my unfiltered opinions of you. Like that's what this is. To the Jatia, to the T, to the T.
Okay.
If I explain it, is that funnier? I know it's always works.
Apostrophe TIA. See, I like the insult. I think it's like a genuinely funny one-liner, but I do like the other one-liners better. Maybe it's because we've gotten to know Jatia afterwards. And to your point, Rob, she's proven to herself to be an extremely intelligent individual, so it almost feels like a bit of a misnomer.
So I feel like that it is succinct, it is to the point, and it is like a dig, but I feel like that there's also some humor there, and I feel like I'm hard pressed to find another one on the board that is similar. I feel like that maybe like the Kelly Goldsmith is the closest to this one, but that's more just like here are my feelings about you, that I strongly dislike you.
Yeah, and then, this is also reminiscent of like Spencer's frustration, right? That he's going to experience over the course of the game is, I don't know whether it's humorous or not, but he tends to sort of have that like, oh, really? Like sort of like Napoleon Dynamite-esque over-the-top reaction to getting frustrated. So I don't know if this is intentionally humorous or not, or if Spencer really does legitimately feel unsafe that Jatia might have her finger on a button.
Yeah, he does have that, especially with the cast, the 0% chance of winning the game. It's that exasperative.
Yeah, a little like a Spencer bobblehead when he gets frustrated.
Right.
So I think he's definitely at least ain't no Hershey bar. Better than you should get struck by lightning on a hill.
Yeah, definitely better than Scout. Definitely better than Rob with 2 Bs. I would say better than Kelly because I think his is more succinct than Kelly.
Okay. What about Boston Rob versus Spencer?
The things super fans have been waiting for.
Go back to the catchphrase of it all. Which one is more of a catchphrase? Boston Rob, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, I like Spencer's more though. I would put Spencer up.
All right, is he better than Greg Buis?
I don't know. I like Greg's reason for voting Jenna off, as strained as they may be, more than Spencer's.
He had an ear infection. All right, Liana, where do you weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think it stays behind Greg.
Yeah, I could have it ahead of Greg. I'm kind of indifferent on this tier. What order you want to have these ones in?
No, same.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go to then 2 more to go here. All right. We got a heavy hitter coming out, Mike.
This is for that point, if we don't have many modern day voting confessionals that hold their weight, I give you Wendell Holland in the merge episode of Survivor Ghost Island, voting off Chris Noble. Let all 30 seconds of bliss play out here, Rob.
Here we go.
We won a lot together. Respect for that. But socially, you don't know what you're doing. I hope you stop saying I so much. I hope you start listening to people. Oh yeah, and finally, somebody had to say it. I'll say it. Stop rapping. You're trash at rapping. You're garbage at rapping. You can't rap. You have no bars. Put the mic down, bro. Put the pen down, bro. Use an eraser.
Oh man,
it's great.
You could pen a whole dissertation about it, but I'd say put the pen down.
Yeah, put the pen down.
No bars.
Interesting. I kind of feel like he does like the reverse Sean Rector of that. He starts with the insults and then where Sean is gonna build him up at the end.
When it starts with, like, we won a lot together. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right. Stop saying I so much. That's more of a constructive criticism. That's not really could be in the.
And then it's going to drop the hammer as opposed to like, hey, we're still good. We're going to get chicken and waffles at the end of this.
Yeah,
and then
the hammer and the mic.
The fact that he's like he gives his insult starts to turn away, turns back, and is like, no, I'm not done. Let me continue to insult your rapping ability. That is also very important to this.
So that to me is that is the je ne sais quoi of Wendell's confessional, is that the editing or lack thereof is poetry of him. Like you said, ordinarily it's you say your thing, you put the vote down. He has a second thought upon folding his vote and saying, and he has to formally unfold the vote and be like, I need to continue talking. This is the talking paper. I can't talk unless I'm holding the paper.
Yeah. I think it also has the similarness or similarity to the voting confessional mine, which was also like a merge vote, where it's another one of these jailbreak type votes where everybody's voting for Chris Noble. The show is telling you everybody is voting for Chris Noble. So I don't know if that has anything else to do with like showing you a like long confessional that's really dunking on somebody. But I think that, just tonally, it also fits.
Well, so something that I really enjoyed about Wendell's confessional, and it is no offense to you, Rob, or people like Johnny Fairplay who clearly come in, planning to say something. This is entirely improvisational, in my opinion. You could tell when he's like when he repeats himself of like, you have no bars, you're trash at rapping, that Wendell is speaking off the cuff. He is unhinged at this point, and he is just foaming at the mouth of, I finally get to vote this guy, Chris Noble, out, and I want to say something. And I find that so endearing.
It's out of character.
That's the other thing as well, is that he's a calm and composed guy, except for don't get him started about Chris Noble's rapping, because then you'll talk your ear off for 15 minutes.
I think then also you follow this up, if we're putting it within the larger context of Ghost Island, with the Chris Noble Ponderosa video, which is him rapping, which I believe I have that MP3 saved somewhere because I think they took it down, and I was like, I have to have
Wendell, had he taken a page from like the Crystal Cox or Penner book and been like, hey, stop rapping also?
I don't know. I feel like Chris Noble, knowing Chris Noble as a person, he'd be like, I'm going to do it more,
Also, Chris Noble gets voted out with an idol that was usable for, I believe, only 2 tribal councils also.
Yep, matured on Ghost Island.
And he did not, I forget, did he not have a vote? I can't remember. I think he kept going until he couldn't have a vote.
I think he couldn't have a vote, yeah.
I think he only ended up ever voting.
Yeah, I think
I don't think he ever ended up voting in Survivor. Maybe I'm wrong, though.
All right. So let's look at Wendell here. And so are we starting Wendell on Worth Playing For?
Yeah, I think so. This is iconic in every sense of the word. I mean, you might say it's a bit of recency bias, but this is incredibly memorable in so many ways. Like you said, it cuts against the modern way that Survivor is done in both not really showing editing confessionals and having this go on for a long time. It shows Wendell's character. It is insulting. It is free-flowing, and it is hysterical. It checks so many boxes for me.
Okay. All right. So, Wendell, better than Penner.
Yeah, I mean, I would go so far as to say I think this is at least top 3.
So, yeah, okay. So I was going to say, I think this at least has to go near or above Rob's because of the point of like, well, this is sort of the natural successor to the Rob confessional, of that it's longer. It is about the dunking on this person after it's all about Chris Noble's downfall, him like leading, wasn't he like the mama duck, like leading all the little ducklings, and then
he let everybody but Wendell and Dom into the jungle to plan to vote out Dominic.
Right. And then they go ahead and flip it on him. So it's very poetic. Now, oh my gosh, where does this? It's so hard because it's so different. They're all so different.
The top 3 is really tough. I personally would still put Crystal number 1 because I think that Crystal's length helps. Like, Crystal does not have a warm-up introduction where she says, Randy, you're a great guy. I liked our time together on Fong. She comes shot out of a cannon the entire time. I think Wendell's lead up, while maybe necessary, I think unfortunately puts it below at least Crystal from my perspective.
Okay. But let's just talk about Suri and Wendell. Okay. Liana, do you feel strongly about Wendell moving past Suri?
Wendell's is more quotable. I've definitely quoted Wendell's more. Cerise is more strategically and emotionally impactful, but I'm here for the humor of Wendell's. So I think ultimately Wendell beats Cerise.
I mean, I have stake in Wendell's. Once upon a time, Wendell's quote was used in one of the tattoo ideas that happened earlier this year. So the chance that it could have been inked on my skin, and in fact, there is a microphone that I think represents that. So I guess Wendell's, has an impact on me in many ways.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So are we debating Wendell versus Crystal for the top spot?
These top two are so quotable. I feel like Wendell's does, for me, have a little bit of a recency bias, so I don't want that to get in the way because I've probably quoted Wendell's more often. But rehearing Crystal's, I'm like, oh yeah, I could use this.
Yeah, personally, I'm going to give it to Crystal. I think the length of time benefits Crystal. I think the fervor with which Crystal pursues Randy, like these are both, again, like Liana said, contestants who are like, I hate this person and I'm finally getting out the opportunity to get something out that's been under my skin. But I think the emotion behind Crystal's is much more palpable than Wendell's and even more enjoyable to watch.
And plus, nobody talks about the beginning of Wendell's. It's like, okay, yeah, you had a great line in your story, but it was very long. It's too long. Stop saying I so much.
I think that the Crystal one, I think I would give it the edge just because of it's tighter.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. Yep.
She workshopped it. Whereas again, Wendell seems much more free flowing, trying to figure stuff out, maybe going through his own bars in that perspective, but still extremely iconic in its own way, especially for modern Survivor.
We're splitting hairs. We're splitting bars here.
Yes. Okay. I mean, this is like the cream of the crop. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and look at our last one, Mike.
Last one. Now, I would wager to say that I think Wendell's spot is okay right now. It's still going to be a strong one because we're finishing off with a little bomb in the form of a little Natalie Napalm. This is from the very next season, Survivor David versus Goliath. Natalie Cole has some words for Jeremy when she votes him out in episode 3.
You talked that brother-sister love stuff, and you showed me no love. So that stinging sensation you feel in your eyes right now, that's a Natalie Napalm. Get off of my island. By the way, your skin is gorgeous, darling.
Yeah. Okay. That's the Sean Rector. Okay.
It's like an open face compliment sandwich.
Yeah. Does also turns back a little bit, right? I think.
Close it up with like something nice at the end. Okay. All right, that's the Natalie Napalm. Get off my island.
It's that stinging sensation in your eyes.
It's a really good one.
That's a good one.
It's a really fun one, and it's also reminiscent of who Natalie Cole is, and that she's like confident. She's very, she's very image enhancing with her words, but she also closes with like a compliment as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whether or not it was thought out beforehand or she came up with it on the fly, like, I don't care. It's very well written, right? It all comes together. It's cohesive, right? And it does really paint a picture. I think that's very clever.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's literally a weaponizing voting confessional. She is saying, I just bombed you.
The alliteration is wonderful.
Natalie Napalm. I love
the other thing too. You're talking about going all the way back, Liana, to the T-shirt catchphrase. Like she created her own slogan with Natalie Napalm.
It's great. All right. So is it in My Life is Fine? Do you want to start it there?
Yeah, I think at least in My Life is Fine. I think it's very well constructed. I guess the question is, we have the Amy, Benry, Courtney trio that, are flat out insults. Natalie is insulting, but with a random compliment at the end, which has more weight here. Like, does the compliment help or hurt the confessional overall?
I think it helps it. I feel like that it speaks to her character of that, that she never like gets mad. She's like very like flat and like she's going to insult you in the same tone that she's going to then also say something nice about you in the same tone.
Yes, she is straightforward.
Mhm.
Positively and negatively straightforward.
She may not have heard of boogers in your teeth, but she has heard about nice skin.
Mhm.
I would say I might have it at the top of this tier. What do you think? Is that crazy talk?
I don't know. Sandra's is just so epic for me, and Coach's is so historical that I feel like those bear more weight to me than Natalie's right now. Like Natalie's is great, but
Mhm.
those two are slightly more important.
How do you feel, Liana?
I think it's tough because we've been talking within the context of the larger season for most of these. Whereas Natalie's, yes, you can put it within that context, but just the confessional itself is so fabulous. Whereas Sandra's needs the rest of the season. Coach's needs the rest of the season. Natalie's could be a standalone confessional. And I think that that's a point in her favor. I don't think it's up and worth playing for, but I do kind of like it at the top of My Life is Fine.
Mike, how do you
I
feel
see
about that?
face.
I mean, I'm not a fan of it. Like again, you say that Natalie is fine on her own, but that's not exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about the whole package, and I think that while Natalie's is certainly incredible, I mean that's why it's so far up here. I think these two are just so legendary in their own right, to the point where I think the only reason why they're not in worth playing for is because they don't have that like joie de vivre that those top 7 do.
Can I ask the chat, Sandra or Natalie, if they could type in that word into the chat and see? Let's just take a little bit of a census of what should be, just to get it. Doesn't mean we're going to go with it, just to get a sense. Just to get a sense of what's going on there.
Yeah, I think this is where the different criteria also that you're judging on comes into play.
Mike, do you have a problem with it being ahead of Coach?
I definitely think I could be swayed to have it ahead of Coach, but I feel like below Sandra, because again, Sandra's, it's so unique. She's the only person to call their shot in a voting confessional and for it to actually happen. That is remarkable. It might not be funny or insulting, but it's just absolutely unbelievable.
Okay. The chat seems so far more Sandra. Than Natalie.
I'm seeing a lot of Sandra.
Okay. All right.
I'm fine with putting Natalie in front of Coach.
All right. So Sandra, then Natalie, then Coach is what we're looking at. And that's the end of what we have here. So now it's time to let's wind it back and let's take a look at our tiers and see if there's some changes that we want to make. Right now, Randy Bailey is the only person that is in Forget You, Go Home, Goodbye.
Let's give Randy a friend here. Let's give him Scout.
Okay. Leon, how do you feel about that? Is it funnier that Randy is by himself alone on this island?
I kind of like that Randy is by himself.
No. Disavow that.
There's some hilarity to that. Scouts, though, is very different from Rob's, though. Like I'm even just sort of thinking.
Rob's yeah,
exactly. Rob B is BB's. So I'm just trying to put this like
Rob B and B.
Rob B.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
should have added a general quote here so we could add all the Robs.
Wait, so why do you want to give Randy a friend, Mike?
I just feel bad.
You feel bad? Mike,
you're Mr. List.
Yeah, come on.
I'm Mr. List. Is that my new nickname?
It's one of them.
Fart Chancellor, Mr. List.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
All right. You know what? I'm good putting Randy on his own here.
Yes. I think he would like that. Okay. He's out on his own.
Randy,
you're on his own.
How people can just say like, Randy, you should listen to this podcast. You're on a tier of your own. I think
he'd be more insulted to know that he was on a tier with Scout.
Mm-hmm.
Who has like kind of Big Jillian energy.
Bummer. Okay. All right. Ain't No Hershey Bar right now has from top to bottom, Greg voting for Jenna, Spencer voting for Jatia, Boston Rob voting for Alicia. We have Kelly Goldsmith voting for Lex, Rob with 2 B's voting for Sheehan, and we have where Scout is voting for Amy.
Is there any, Liana, that you feel like we should move up or down here? Because I'm assuming, I don't think we want to move any out of this tier.
Yeah, similar to Rob. I think I'm the Rob here with us today. I'm sort of indifferent on the rankings within this. I think Scout at the bottom for sure. But other than that, if there's a little bit of movement, I'm open to it. I don't feel super strongly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I like the actual Rob with 2 B's voting confessional more than Kelly's, but Kelly's also has that unique quality to it. So I think I'm okay with where it is right now.
Okay. All right. We go to My Life is Fine, has 6 confessionals, starting with Sandra voting out Rupert, calling her shot that he will then vote for her. Natalie Napalm, Coach becomes the Dragon Slayer. Amy says that Scout is not part of the rainbow. Then Benry, Dirt Squirrels, Alina, and then Courtney compares John Robert to someone choking a walrus when he sleeps.
Yeah, the only one I could possibly see is switching Benry and Amy, but I'm not entirely sold on that one way or the other.
I think the animal insults have to go together.
Okay, well, we're like Noah here. We're keeping animals 2 by 2.
Keep the animals 2 by 2. All right. Then in our top tier, we have our biggest top tier that we've ever had on Outwit Outplay OutList. We go from 7 to 1. Penner shouts, Denise.
Oh, Penner's voted out at 7th again.
Yes, he's always the 7th place finisher. We have Sean Rector voting for John. We have Johnny Fairplay voting for Sean Cohen. Rob C votes for Roger Sexton. Then Suri votes off Eric. Wendell votes off Chris Noble. And then we have the great Crystal Cox voting for Randy. So Randy really is he's getting voted out in the number 1 spot. And then he's also the bottom spot.
I love this. The alpha and the omega. It all revolves around Randy Bailey.
Yeah. It starts with Randy.
Okay.
Randy. Okay. I like this.
Yes.
Yeah, I like
there
this.
a butt?
Suri in 3rd is tough, but at least there was no advantage get in this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm very good with this. I think this is
a great job.
I think this makes a lot of sense to me. I can sleep easy now and sound like I'm choking a walrus.
Okay. So here's what I would like to know. Based on what we have here today, could we, almost like an artificial intelligence, could we sort of come up with a couple of rules that would be handy for a Survivor player if you are going into a season, if you are playing in a college Survivor game, when you are going to do your voting confessional? What's the equation for a great Survivor voting confessional?
Number 1 criteria across the board here is insult. You do not want to talk up somebody being like, oh, it was so great playing the game with you. I'm so sorry this had to happen. You need to get right into that person.
We didn't have one of those on our list.
No, I'm sorry. If you said I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. Right? That's a mistake. I think short and sweet. Insult, short and sweet. If it's going to be long, you better have a plan and it better be iconic, right? Because even though we do have 2 long confessionals, they're iconic.
Yeah. Liana, would you say that the insult also should be colorful and specific?
Colorful and specific. It should involve an animal if possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something to consider. It doesn't have to, but it can. Alliteration is also beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I think volume, the louder the better.
The louder the better.
I think, look,
depends on the situation.
I mean, look at Crystal, look at Penner, look at Fairplay, look at Rob Cesternino. They're all up here at the top where volume was not a concern.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
Okay. What about from Sean Rector's? Should we get a movie or TV quote in there?
Yes, but incorporate it into either your gameplay or somebody else's. Mm-hmm. Don't just say "Hasta la vista, baby," unless you're Boston Rob going through many types of different languages.
Right.
Find something that applies to you and you can co-opt it so it doesn't just sound forced in.
So, and learn a lesson from me in terms of song lyrics or a quote. If it's something that they may need to get clearance for, that clearance may be temporary.
Yeah, I was going to say the copyright infringement is big here. You got to really be careful with what you're going to
make
with.
Sure if it's a parody, it's to the Winners at War song.
Right.
Or it's public domain.
Yeah. To infinity and beyond. You, who knows? That's going to be a discussion. If they got to talk to the lawyers, then could not make the show.
Yeah. Do you think you should ask production before just to clear it, or do you
ask for forgiveness? Not permission.
Ask for forgiveness.
Definitely the insult, though. I mean, Cherise is really the black sheep here of them, and I think that that's because there's so much that is great about this, but that is really the rarity. If we're talking about uncut gems, this is still buried in the earth. Like that one's tough to find. Otherwise, go something short, sweet, insult. That's going to be a winner.
And don't be afraid to break conventions too. Like if you swear, if you're yelling the person's name to get them to laugh, like don't be afraid to go past the pomp and circumstance of going up there, writing the name down, and then putting it back in the urn.
Yeah. It is a minor miracle that I didn't do like a no soup for you in a voting confessional.
I think you just didn't want to talk about soup because you were so hungry.
Maybe not talking about food. Yeah, but that would be a good one. I think that something like that, I think would be okay.
Oh, you mean in terms of getting the rights? You think that the
Seinfeld
quote
from something was probably okay, more so than like something that's a tagline.
Right, exactly. Like, nobody's gonna put like a trademark on what you talking about, Willis.
I would not do going unless somebody was named Willis and you were voting them out. Like,
here's what I'm talking about, Willis.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
What about Urkel? Did I do that?
Yes, I did that.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think this is good. Keep it short. Keep it colorful. Go for the insult. Swing for the fences.
Really.
Go for it.
And that's what we want our Survivor players to do in general.
All right. Any other thoughts on this list?
I mean, so, to put our cards out on the table, this is going to be the last OutLIST podcast we're going to be doing in 2020. But I actually find it, rather fitting that we are bidding adieu to the year in one way that we felt certainly a lot of emotions about by talking about all the times contestants said goodbye to one another.
No, this is how we have to close the show. Could we all give our voting confessional to 2020?
Oh man. Do I have let me get a notebook out. Hold on.
Okay. All right. Let me here, I'll give you a second to think about that.
Oh my God.
Let me just tell you a little bit about what else is going on here on Rob as a podcast. Take a second to deliberate. Of course, a ton of great stuff. I mentioned the Talking with T-Bird with Cindy Hall and Mindy Hall. That is one. I'm telling you, you're like, wait, what is this? Wasn't she just on the show? Trust me, this weekend you're gonna put it on at some point, and you're gonna say, "Wait, I hold on, I don't want to turn this off." Okay, that is a captivating story from Cindy Hall. Of course, Mike, Jessica, Lisa, and I talked about the finale of The Amazing Race 32. We had exit interviews with the final three; those are all up right now. Plus the Tar Pit coming up this weekend. So if you have a question for us, you can email it to the show, amazingrace@robhasawebsite.com. And of course, Brian and Allie are back with coverage of the challenge Free Agents episode number 2. Check that out as well at robhasawebsite.com. All right. Mike, are you ready? Are you up to vote?
All right, I'll come up to vote here. Let's see if this works, incorporating our stuff here. 2020, the year that was so not nice, it's like we lived through it twice. Do yourself a favor, find a murder hornet and get stung. Fleets, baby!
Oh my God, that's fabulous. Oh, I can't believe it.
Okay.
Okay. I've wanted to do this since the 3rd month of the year. You are garbage. You are a certified grade A turf walrus. Get out of here. You're gone. See you later.
2020, you're a clown. You're the worst year I've ever seen. No soup for you.
There we go. Came back around.
Full circle.
Could it be like no snaps for you? Some sort of like what's modern day soup?
Modern day soup.
Gazpacho.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cold soup.
All right, there you go.
Wow.
We did it.
We did it. We did it. We did it.
Incredible in so many ways.
Also, if you start listening to this podcast at about 9:38 on New Year's Eve,
You can finish.
During 2021 by us voting out 2020.
There you go. All right. Liana, busy weekend for you.
Yes, this is quite the busy weekend. So Puya and I wrapped up The Masked Singer. That has also finished. So we talked about the finale, and that was very enjoyable. So look out for that in the Masked Singer feed. And then I am also going to be on RHAP, continuing the holiday spirit. We're going to be watching the Star Wars holiday special, and I believe I will be giving a proclamation at some point during that podcast. It's gonna be one for the ages.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we know you hate tower-based shenanigans. We were thinking of you the other night.
I thought we didn't make it too many tiers in this, Liana. We wanted to make sure they didn't go tower-like.
Only 4 layers. That's I can handle that. A 4-story building. Yes. No tower-related shenanigans for me. We will see. I actually think Penner starred, according to the RHAPbot's idea, Penner and Sarah Jessica Parker starred in the Star Wars holiday special, according to the RHAPbot. So it somehow ties in here.
Denise.
Yeah. Leia.
Yeah. Looking forward to
I
that.
don't really know what Life Day is, but I'm about to find out.
I'd like my lightsaber back, please.
All right. Mike, what do you got going on?
So as Rob said, we're still finishing up the Amazing Race season. I had interviews with the final 3 teams, which were all great at parade.com. But we're still finishing up with the Tar Pits. Of course, over on post-show recaps, I'm finishing up coverage of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 with Jessica Leese, as well as going down the hatch with Josh Wigler. We are nearly at the end of Season 3, and nobody is telling 2020 we have to go back. So we're just going to keep going forward with that. And, Rob, you and I are not particularly done doing away with 2020. There might be an opportunity in the next week for us to pontificate on some of the more notable figures from the past year with our good friend Brant Steele.
Yes. Okay. 2020 breakout stars of 2020 are in your future. And one more Brant Steele to close out the year, as we say, no soup for you to 2020. One last time.
I mean, 2020, the year that seemed a bit like a Brant Steele.
Yes. All right. This was so much fun. I think we got a great list. Very productive. So thank you both for that. And thanks everybody who checked this out live and listen to the podcast. Of course, we have much more this weekend. So make sure you stay subscribed to the podcast. Rob has a website.com/iTunes. Anything else? Our work here is done. Okay.
As we stay here in RHAP. See you later.
See you later.
See you later. Yeah. And forget you, go home. Goodbye.